All right, so bear with me tonight, and the rest of us old timers trying to get into technology days here. My head's gonna be chopped off by the looks. So this is we're gonna be opening the meeting. We're not gonna do the agenda yet. I'm gonna read this first, then we're gonna get to the agenda because there should be a couple things we need to add to that. So this is a notice agenda for a remote meeting. Select board for the town of Enosburgh will meet remotely, electronically on April 20th, 2020. Information on how to access the remote meeting. This probably information was already put out on emails. I'm going to read, please review our informational handout for remote public meetings. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to the agenda, and we need to add to the agenda. I just talked to Joy there just a little while ago. There's a couple pieces of paperwork that we all need to sign. So we need just to put discussion on the road. Actually, there's a financial plan and then the road and bridge standard compliance forms. So I'll need a motion and a second to add that to the agenda.
Larry, if I can interject one moment, take the time to do a verbal roll call, please.
Oh, sorry. Let me find out. I got one more paper here. It's easier when BJ's handing them to me. All right, so I probably should read this whole paper here. This meeting is being recorded. The town of Selectboard, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by Governor Scott as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, pursuant to Addendum 6, the Executive Order January 20th and Act 92, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. In accordance with Act 92, there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the temporary amendments to the open meeting law, I confirm that we are providing public access to the meeting by video, with additional access offered through telephone. We're using Zoom video conferencing for this remote meeting. All members of the Select Board have the ability to communicate contemptuously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if desired, participate in this meeting by clicking the raise your hand option via video or I think it's *9 via phone. Once acknowledged, please clearly state your name and then proceed with your question or comment. B, providing public notice of instructions for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing this meeting, including how to access this meeting using video or telephone, and our posted meeting agenda. Instructions have also been provided on the town website, www.enosburgh.vt.org. And C, if you are experiencing technical difficulty and not able to access this meeting with either video or telephone, please call 802-933-4421. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous would be done by the roll call vote in accordance with the law. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call. Attendance of all Select Board members participating in the meeting. I, myself, this is Larry Jarvis.
Dean Wright.
Terry Wright.
Polly Rico.
Guillermo Turno.
Okay. So now we will go back to the agenda, and I will need a motion and a second to do a couple things for the town road. We need an annual financial plan. We need to discuss that, and we need to discuss the road and bridge standard compliance form. And
I'll second it.
so Polly made a motion to move and Dean seconded it. Any more discussion on that? If having none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. All right, there's one,
Pierre, you're muted.
oh, we didn't hear Pierre's introduction?
No.
Sorry.
Pierre's muted due to him being right next to Billy Joe's system.
Oh,
There'll
right.
be a feedback loop, so he'll have to just speak up over one of the connections.
Okay.
Just say hello.
Yes, Pierre here.
Did you hear him? Yes.
And then there was one other discussion I wanted to add on the agenda to talk about some property. There was some garbage there and sending a letter out to them. That can be added to the agenda. Motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Do it. So Dean Wright made a motion to move, and Polly Rico seconded to add discussion for public health problems. Any more discussion? If having none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Okay.
Larry, there's,
Larry, can we add, no, excuse me, Angie wanted to talk about the tractor supply project too. Want to add that to the agenda, or and if it's not already on?
No, it's not on.
is it an update, Dean, or?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I have an update on the armory as well.
So do I have a motion to add those two items?
I make the motion to add those two items.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So Terry Wright made a motion to accept adding those two on the agenda, and Polly Rico seconded it. Any more discussion? If having none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Okay. So that was the tractor supply.
Wait, we'll have you give an update. We'll have you talk about the tractor supply stuff
And
later.
primary update. All right, so we are actually behind schedule right now, 6:20, and we should be in our public hearing right now. So we were starting that a little bit late, but we're gonna open that up right now. So the municipality of Enosburgh Town and Village of Enosburgh Falls notice of public hearing Monday, April 20th at 6 p.m. Held remotely, 253-215-8782. Notice is hereby given to the residents of the municipality of Enosburgh, including the Village of Enosburgh Falls, Vermont. The Enosburgh Selectboard will hold a hearing on Monday, April 20th, held remotely to consider for adoption a town and village of Enosburgh, Vermont comprehensive municipal plan pursuant to Chapter 117 of Title 24, Section 4387 and 4384. Vermont statutes enacted. Residents can attend the hearing remotely either through Zoom, online video conference, or by phone. Zoom, https://Zoom US 1-846-76808, question mark, I can't read all that. Meeting ID 1-846-76808, password 461981. A phone is, for that is 253-215-872 or 301-715-8592. By state statute, municipalities must prepare and update their town plan every 5 years. For all municipal plans adopted before July 1st, 2015, the Enosburgh municipal plan expired on February 2nd, 2020. This plan revision focuses on updating data and outdated information, the addition of a new enhanced energy plan, and a review and updated to the recommended implementation actions. Purpose of this hearing is to receive public comment on adoption of the amended Enosburgh municipal plan. The Enosburgh Municipal Plan includes 14 sections. Visions for the future of Enosburgh. Chapter 1, purpose. Chapter 2, community profile. Chapter 3, historic archaeologists and scenic resources. Chapter 4, natural features. Chapter 5, housing. Chapter 6, education. Chapter 7, public utilities, facilities, and services. Chapter 8, transportation planning. Chapter 9, planning for hazard resiliency. Chapter 10, energy. Chapter 11, economy. Chapter 12, land use. Chapter 13, compatibility with neighboring towns and region. Chapter 14, implementation. A full text of the plan is on file in the Enosburgh Town Office and Village's office. The plan proposes goals and policies that impact the entire municipality of Enosburgh, including the village of Enosburgh Falls. This plan is intended to be consistent with the goals established in Title 24, Section 4302. So this is the second public meeting. We were required to have 2 public meetings, and we had no one from the public address any issues on that meeting. So I am opening it up now to any public comments, if there's anybody out there wishing to do so.
No hands.
Sean, is there nobody in the waiting room for public?
No one in the waiting room, and there's no hands raised.
Okay. So if there's no public comment, then we can move to adoption if
I lost the voice here for a second. Are you still there?
we can move to adopt unless there's questions or comments.
If seeing none, I entertain any motions.
I'll move to adopt the town plan.
I'll second it.
So Polly Rico has made a motion and Dean Wright has seconded a motion to adopt the updated town plan, municipal plan. Any more discussion? If not, everybody in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I just heard Polly. I don't know if my voice is going or what.
Aye.
Aye.
Pierre says aye.
Okay. All those opposed say nay. All right, it's now adopted. Okay. So next on the agenda is Enosburgh Recreation with the SC Group, review of the plans for the fields and public comment. That's supposed to start at 6:30, it's 6:26 now.
I'm ready if you guys are.
All right, so if you want to introduce yourself, Tom.
Sure, and just so I know, how much time do I have on the agenda?
An hour.
An hour, all right, great. I am Tom Hand, landscape architect with SE Group out of Burlington. We started on this project, I believe, sometime last summer, if not a bit earlier in the spring. And here we are about a year later now, kind of wrapping it up and presenting to you guys kind of what my company, along with Drudell Engineering and the committee from the town, what we worked towards over the past year in terms of developing a master plan for the the Enosburgh recreation area. And I was thinking a few minutes ago how funny it was as I was going through the plan and everything that's in it in the estimate, that I think most of this all started by wanting to understand where they should put a Gaga pit. So we still have that identified, but there's a lot of other things that have been incorporated into the plan as well. So is it good? Am I free to share my screen so you guys can see the plan?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so.
Hi, Tom. This is Yvonne. I just wanted to let you know that I'm on. My video's not
Yvonne.
on, but I'm here. Okay.
Great. All
If
right.
anyone has
So
questions.
can you all see? I'm gonna try to clean this up a little bit, but
Oh,
can you guys see that?
Yes.
yes.
There we go. All right, so this goes back to the presentation that we made to the public back in November in the library. Basically, kind of the same summary that I will give to you folks tonight. Summary of a little bit of the process of how we got to what the master plan is, as well as kind of more detail about the actual master plan design, some of the specific elements and the costs associated with that. So, you know, we started kind of looking at where the project site sits within the town, what some of the kind of major elements of the town are in terms of attracting people to the site. Obviously, you have the village, which consists of the high school and the elementary school is kind of key drivers for the after school program for kids wanting to get up to the project site, either by being driven or walking or riding their bikes. So, you know, the town's aware and pushing for the sidewalk connection along Route 105, which would be a really important connection to get to the site, as well as there's the Valley Rail Trail that's proximate but not quite connected through. And it would be awesome, I've always said, if there's a way to kind of envision some sort of other connection that kind of comes through either through the supermarket or even the fields to get to the site. But that's generally where the project site exists within town. Obviously, it contains the emergency services building as kind of a core part of the site, as well as 3 existing field features. You know, the existing baseball field, the soccer field, which in this graphic, we're kind of showing the layout for one large soccer field, as well as 2 smaller soccer fields based on the striping, and then the existing basketball court that's kind of down towards the bottom of the site. So you have Route 105 kind of going along the southern side of the site, and then Water Tower Road going up the hill on the western side. And there's 2 potential places to access the site. One is, you know, right off of Route 105, which is, for all intents and purposes, feels like the primary entry, other than the fact that you know, there's traffic mainly for the emergency services building. So I think some people recognize that sometimes they might not actually come in that way. Secondary entry comes into the dirt driveway that is off of Water Tower Hill. And then the primary parking is up at the top of the site with the little storage shed that's used both by the rec community and I believe the emergency services department, the fire department. So, you know, we did a brief site analysis. Obviously, there's lots of different drainages on site. The major feature is the Trout Brook all the way to the east that goes under Route 105, and that's kind of forested along the edge. There's some wetlands up on the northern portion of the site, that kind of a seep up in this area in the village of Enosburgh Falls parcel. And that kind of bleeds into I'm assuming a man-made drainage that's become a bit of a wetlands before it, you know, spills into the Trout Brook. And then harder to see, but there's a lot of just lawn kind of drainages, ditches, dug ditches to manage the stormwater flow. Ultimately, some of them go to the Trout Brook, but a lot of the site kind of drains all the way down to this low point here, and then through a culvert under Route 105. And then views, I think from, you know, this upper portion of the site were best, you know, a lot of good views, but best kind of up towards the top of the site, looking out to, you know, say the east, kind of southeast. So what we did is we looked at several different initial options for how to lay out the site. And, what we had started with going into this was a pretty long list of different activities and elements that the community was looking to potentially include at the site. And, obviously with the three kind of major recreational amenities that were here already, the decision had to be made, okay, do we keep some of those, or are there higher and better uses for the site if some of those went away? So what we initiated last summer was looking at three kind of high-level concepts of how you could lay out the site, how you could utilize the different portions of the site. And these were just very small, quick diagrams, exploring those options. One looked at expanding parking. The first one, concept A here, looked at expanding parking kind of behind the emergency services building, having a new pavilion, kind of main center open air pavilion that the community was looking for up towards the top of the site, getting rid of the existing parking lot that's up there, but basically keeping all the other features in terms of the baseball field, the soccer field, and the basketball court, and then just trying to integrate new pathways and some activities into those systems there. There was a community garden, I think a playground, and potentially the Gaga pit kind of over towards the edge of the Trout Brook wooded buffer, and different kind of landscape site elements, in some of those areas. So concept B was the one concept that looked at, all right, as a major element, what if we expand and get the second baseball field, which was originally introduced years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago, when the initial design for the whole park was actually done and then implemented. So we kind of brought that idea back, but in a little bit different geometry. And the other major element with this was actually getting rid of the basketball court in its current location and doing a much larger parking area, so that you try to emphasize the fact that you come in off of the main road and immediately try to capture all the traffic of people coming to the rec area to separate it from anyone going to the emergency services building, and try to reduce some of the conflicts that we're hearing about anecdotally in terms of, people parking kind of in the way of the emergency vehicles being able to get in and out and that sort of thing. And in this scheme, we even kind of cut off the connection to pull all the way through to really separate, the rec users from the emergency services building users and visitors. Other than that, a couple of extra basketball courts. The playground moved closer to the pavilion in this core area. This kind of layout is similar to the concept A, other than bringing the playground in, and then still keeping the baseball and the soccer fields, and then introducing potentially a trail that goes, kind of a natural trail that goes into the woods and goes along the Trout Brook for people to have an experience there. So the last concept, kind of a larger parking lot up high, actually moving the basketball court up here, trying to realign a road to also look at a way to separate the traffic from being in front of the emergency services building. Create kind of like a town streetscape idea where you have a new street with on-street parking, trees along the side of that, separated from the existing roadway. This put the pavilion and playground kind of right down along the edge of Route 105. And it was pretty clear from, hosting the public meeting with the community and quite a few public comments, that the major preference for many regions was this concept B. There was pretty strong recognition that, the activities along Route 105, the vehicular traffic didn't work with, having the pavilion and the playground there. And that the idea of putting a larger parking lot there, kind of immediately allowing people to pull off of the road into a parking area and access the site, was a better use for that, even though it meant relocating the basketball court to another place on site. So that's the scheme that we took and developed, and this is just a quick kind of summary of that from the open house. This is the board where people actually voted on that concept B, and it got the most votes, and they were able to write in kind of what their comments were and thoughts, what they liked, what they didn't like. So we tried to pull all of that into the revised and refined concepts as we moved forward. So that's how we got to, what we're calling the preferred concept plan. This is the master plan for the project. So a lot of similar elements to that initial little concept diagram. However, further kind of refinement and tweaking out of, ongoing discussions with the committee, as well as recognizing some of the comments from the community. So you still have the existing kind of curb cut off of 105 and roadway into the site, but now, the idea that you immediately get into that parking lot that's overlaid in where the basketball court is. Currently, you can kind of see the outline of that right in this location here. Basically, this would be a bit of a benched kind of double parking lot, and I believe it got about 75 to 80 cars into that new lot there. So it definitely seemed like there was from our discussions, a shortage of parking on the property from when you had 2 or 3 games going at the same time. And also, as we were looking at expanding on the uses of the parcel, there's the expectation that there would be more demand, more parking requirements of the site. So we looked at a big parking lot there. Not much change to the existing parking along the side of the building, but we did kind of relocate and realign its connection. Currently, it kind of goes up this way towards that existing parking area here. We realigned that to try to open up this space here for the new pavilion and kind of made this little drop off and connection all the way through. So there's good kind of vehicular site circulation through the whole site. Really minimizes the amount of traffic in front of the existing emergency building and creates additional parking areas. So really the key to this is that we kept, other than the basketball court, we kept all the existing facilities and really worked hard to intersperse the new amenities into the edges and kind of manipulate this sloping site into terrace areas where we can get these new amenities. It's obviously not as easy to or inexpensive to do on a perfectly flat site, but in this location, we're working with the topography of the site. And, I think we've pretty successfully made a really interesting concept here that I think there's a lot of support for. But really, the goal of it was really trying to take some of these, buffers that are currently in the existing site, just, lawn with maybe the existing accessible gravel path peeling through it, into terrace spots that have, the pavilion up at the top of the hill with this hill that kind of cascades down from it. You can see there's a major walkway here with some new stairs that would come down. And, the idea that this is like almost a promontory. This pavilion here, open air on one side, likely for being able to meet or, have a picnic on one side. It would likely have restrooms, either men's and women's or family restrooms over on one side of that. So there would be new permanent facilities there. It could also have its own kind of separate barbecue and picnic area off the backside of it, kind of along the quieter edge back against the wetlands and the existing slope there. So from that, you've got then this like hybrid natural kind of structured playground in this zone here on the slope. So we've got embankment slides that come down the hill and a little pathway that allows kids to kind of run back up and come back down, and probably be some climbing features in there. And what was nice about this is that, it's really proximate when you think about the different amenities and activities going on between, say the baseball field here, if there's a soccer game going on, there's a lot of activity going back and forth to the pavilion and to the playground as well. Kind of across the new roadway from the pavilion building, it is the relocated basketball court, also a tennis court. We've got the skate park. There was strong demand for some sort of a skate park that kids could use. And then the community garden thought would be close to the roadway, but kind of away from other things. So the idea, you can come and kind of pull in and park there. There could be materials stored or dumped in that parking area. So lots of space kind of up at the top of the site for community gardens and people to take care of their plots there. And then kind of down and around the soccer field is formalizing as best we can this new idea of a walking track. There's not enough room to do an actual running track to, competition standards, but right now the walking tracks that's there is probably only, it's now 4 feet. It started around 5 feet, but the lawn and kind of weeds have grown in on the edge, and it's not even really comfortably wide enough for multiple people to walk kind of two abreast. So what we're picturing is that, let's actually complete this loop around the soccer field. So as people are kind of practicing soccer, parents or families could do laps around the soccer field, go up to say a 8 to 10 foot wide gravel track that they can walk on. The other option is, basically maintain a lot of the existing gravel pathways that's there currently, and you could even do a larger, wider loop if you wanted to, either around, the soccer and the baseball field, or you could even, kind of go really far out and do a large loop around the entire parcel if you wanted to, connecting these loops together. So that seems like a pretty easy kind of pathway to take in an initial phase once we get to the phasing. The last aspect of the plan is kind of developing the northern portion of the parcel. Two elements. There's still the town property where the new baseball field is, but there's also the village of Enosburgh property, which we've only pushed it to the point of some more paths kind of through the wetlands and through the woods. But the idea that maybe there's this outdoor skating pond that's actually more of, instead of being it is man-made, but instead of being like a square kind of boards and plastic type pond, could it be a more actual natural pond in the summer months? And that can be used for outdoor skating. It's got its own little kind of dedicated pavilion kind of hut thing for cocoa or snacks if you wanted to run concessions out of there. So the idea that in the winter time people could still come to the property and kind of work their way through the pathway system and get to this nice amenity in the winter time, and then in the summer it's another little interesting element, becomes kind of like a frog pond or something. As kids are playing baseball, there's another proximate activity either there, or they kind of cross this drainage and get back over to either the main pavilion or the playground. Last couple of items, the Gaga pit, kind of looked for a nice level spot that was out of the way. Seems like that would be a really easy thing to do out of the gate here. But that's over along the edge of the existing baseball field. And then the character of the trout brook was really nice. And we felt like somehow allowing people to work their way down the slope, there is a little bit of grade change from the existing pathway down to where the trout brook is, but do a combination of pathways with overlooks, maybe even a boardwalk that kind of gets into the wetland areas and looks out over the river or the brook. It's a really interesting kind of water feature, and it's a lot of overgrowth or an understory plants in there. So if you could define a pathway that gets in there, allows kids to go in and kind of look at the stream and have a little bit of a nature walk in there. That was the last element that we included. So that's generally the high level of the plan. There's more detail obviously around each element. We don't, if people have questions, we can get into it. The next couple of slides are really just trying to look at some character imagery of what some of these elements are as we're thinking about them in our heads. And obviously nothing is set in stone, but these are just precedent images to try to kind of get people's imaginations going and kind of start to build an idea of what these elements were looking like for people who might not actually be able to read a plan or not quite understand even my description here. But the idea that you do have like the main new feature being this open air pavilion, could it have really interesting architecture, as a really nice piece up at the top of the hill as people are driving by or wanting to use it. So some open air pavilion that spills out onto the lawn surrounding it. At one end could be those restrooms I mentioned, and then could there now be activities, I'm not sure where your fireworks take place now, but, could there be, music activities on the fields that people, basically on that slope below the pavilion building, and there's fireworks at the end of the night. So the idea of, trying to activate the park more than just for, say, soccer games and baseball games and pickup basketball games, but the idea of really starting to program the park in ways beyond just sports. And that was something that I talked to the committee about a lot, is not just the idea of programming kind of after school sports, but also different programs, yoga and these events, and there's different different events and activities, summer camps, different things like that, that could help activate the space and continue to bring people to the park amenity. I think we started, as we went through the project, started to get away from the idea that it's a recreation area and became a park, right? It's a park for not just Enosburgh, but we even started to talk about, a park for the greater area and greater region. So I think there's great pride that you guys could take in that, someone was even talking about how there's not a really good like pre-K playground in the area. And, the idea that, you have the opportunity to create that within the playground is a great opportunity. So the idea just that there's, gravel pathways kind of throughout the site, incorporating bike racks in different forms, playing with the landform that exists for the current site and how you design the pathways through them and create interesting landform. Obviously, we have the Gaga pit and this kind of natural playground. There's the idea of the community garden with kind of lots of different rectangles for people to plant things. And then even that idea of boardwalks down near the Trout Brook with, simple overlooks and benches to allow people to kind of look at the brook there. And then the last page of images here, the idea of, more playground with the embankment slide coming down, the idea of, kind of the picnic area that's near the pavilion. This was a good image of the skate park kind of built into the hillside near the basketball and tennis courts. Obviously, there's the tennis court there. And then there was this kind of strong sense for, can we create like a circuit along some of those pathways of exercise equipment that's not so organized, but there's a circuit, whereas people are doing laps, they can it's almost like ground equipment, but specifically to be able to do different exercises as people are going about the park. And then finally, kind of these two images here, trying to summarize that wintertime skating pond little hut kind of up on the northern portion of the site. Wouldn't necessarily be this large, but a smaller version of it. But, just the idea that it's this really nice kind of wintertime amenity. And, you could even have a fire pit up there kind of alongside the hut, and becomes a really nice feature for the community in the wintertime. And people can cross-country ski and snowshoe around the park, do some sledding, keeps kind of the ongoing year-round use of the park going. So I believe that's pretty much it in terms of the presentation of the actual plan. This is a nice bird's eye view that we did, and really kind of starts to bring the park into the three-dimensional view, so people really have an understanding of kind of the scale and the proportions and how things relate to each other. So I think maybe there's a good place to pause and talk to people and answer questions. The next part would be, after we get through that, talking more about phasing and potential costs. I think, at this point, it'd be good maybe to answer some questions and have a discussion about, the actual design and the different elements that I've just discussed.
There does not appear to be any, Tom.
Tom, I have a question, Tom. This is Larry. Can you hear me,
Larry.
Tom?
I can, yes.
So, yeah, there's just a couple little things. I know there's a lot of shrubbery going on around there, and there's been some concern about too much shrubbery blocking off the view of the EMS building itself from the road. So that's just something to keep in mind. I know the elevation does drop off there, so I don't know how big the shrubbery is going to be, but that's something, a lot of this community is, the EMS building itself is something great for the community to be able to see. We don't want to block that completely out of sight. The other thing is the EMS building itself, we can't constrict it from growth in the future.
Right.
Because like the ambulance system, we just had an incident last year where another bordering town almost lost their ambulance service, and if we had to pick it up and take on more crews, well, now we don't have enough bedroom space and stuff for the personnel, or do we have to add another bay? And so there may be some we can't constrict that area. We have to keep that in mind to be able to give some room for that growth of that building.
That was that came up in during the process, but without really a hard understanding of where that would expand, we opted to just see where all the master plan kind of recreation elements could fit in. And obviously, if there's a need, I'm assuming there's only 3 directions you would likely expand, either into the existing parking lot, which would kind of be the optimum for, I think, both facilities. Would it be out the back, or would it be even off the side into this parking area? I think it's just a matter of, deciding what elements from the recreation standpoint are going to go in earlier. And to your point, maybe not, excluding yourself from being able to have that future option. And maybe it's a matter of understanding, where would future expansion of that building be, just so you at least know what area to conserve. And, if it was going to be off the back, then, we just need to absorb that in terms of what the design of some of those amenities are. And, I think we did a really good job of getting a lot of elements into this park, but it's not to say that, every element actually does need to be achieved. And, as we get on the second phase of the and phasing, some of this stuff might be really far down the road, and some of it might just not have the legs just because of funding limitations. So definitely a valid point to keep in mind.
Yeah, I definitely like the extra parking areas just because of, especially like Terry's on the fire department, and he knows on Tuesday nights, or even emergencies, they come there, they need to be able to park, the EMS guys need to be parking there. And so if there's a different area, the traffic to the rec areas, those people generally will park in that other area. But if there's limited, well, they might start overflowing into the EMS parking spots.
Feel good.
How long again?
Yeah, and just as far as your first comment, I mean, these are, these guys are shown as trees. I think we have some shrubs. There's a wall here kind of holding up the parking lot. Obviously, this whole project has a long way to go to get to final design. So comments like that about, maintaining potentially a view shed towards the emergency services building, those are definitely things that can be incorporated and considered as the project moves along. And if you either need smaller trees or no trees in certain areas, that's definitely a design kind of input that can be considered and responded to.
Yeah, it's a great plan. Well done. And just to kind of reiterate, just because I want for clarity, is that this is kind of the plan. But as the projects, we start chipping away at projects, like you said, some may not have legs. And so the final the final piece might look different than what it does right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, with any master plan, you know, it's that first crack at what everyone who's involved in the process, and maybe it's a 5-year master plan, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 20 years, and 20 years down the road, there might be much different thinking and priorities than where we're at now, and you just have to adapt to that. You know, my hope is that it can be achieved sooner than that, and that you can achieve as much of this as I've shown. But, you know, I think as long as everyone just knows that this is basically like a roadmap, and it's, you know, the directions for how to get where you want to go, but, you know, there's other routes that can be taken. You know, really it's a matter of just kind of trying to build momentum, build enthusiasm, build funding, and, you know, try to prioritize what the really critical elements are to keep things moving, and what's, you know, going to be money well spent in terms of the town and what they really need.
Sorry about
Are there any other questions or comments?
that. No, I think it's, like Polly said, a very great, nice layout. I like the second one there a lot more than the other two. But we have to be aware of what's going on around us right now. And for funding, we know the short term is probably not going to be a lot of great funding going on, but hopefully we can get out of this virus situation that we're all in, you know, and get the economy rolling again, because taxes may not come in like we expect them next year.
Yeah. And had anyone had a chance to look through these plans at all, kind of prior to tonight?
I had gone to the, oh, sorry, Terry, you go.
No, I just said I hadn't looked at these plans.
I had gone to the public hearing at the library, so I had
Right.
seen his presentation. So, and you're right, this plan definitely had the most support.
Mhm.
And just thinking about, you know, if you kind of morph a couple plans together, like I'm thinking, like, if, you know, maybe you do all this and not the second baseball field, which is more like number one, but number two definitely had the better kind of parking and pavilion access. And so definitely this one was the one that had the most support for sure.
Correct. Yeah, and, you know, I think from the ongoing development standpoint, like this was done, you know, with a good sense of what the grading and some of the environmental constraints were, but you know, development of this whole kind of northern portion of the site, you know, it's there really had a lot of support, but it's definitely a difficult site to build a ball field on. And I think you already had a plan and an estimate on the table, and it wasn't ever implemented. So it's, you know, there's quite a bit of grade change up there and a lot of rock. So it's not the easiest place to actually achieve doing a nice flat ball field. You know, so as another kind of thing I said throughout this was, you know, understanding like if you know, a second ball field or even more soccer fields are desired in town, like there's only so much elements you can get onto this one site, one property. And if there's strong need that, you know, we should kind of look for these secondary, you know, major kind of field elements, you know, it's not to say you can't keep looking elsewhere in town for sites that might be easier to do. Obviously, we don't want to dissipate kind of the activity and energy going on here. But, you know, it's obviously it's a more difficult, more expensive site to develop, to get a ball field in, kind of up on that northern portion of the site. So I think being smart about, you know, this is the plan, but, you know, we could do it for this much less money, and there's a site that's, you know, flat, and all we need to do is peel the top layer of grass and topsoil off and kind of put in our drainage and shape it, and we get a ball field, like that might be much easier in the long run. So, I think it's always good to look at the good, pretty picture we've developed here of what can be, but also, looking at it from the other side of, are there other parcels on site that or in town? I'm not trying to downplay this plan. I think this plan is awesome for you guys, and I'd like to see it implemented. But I think we need to let you know that you need to look at it from both directions, and you as the select board are most keen to do that. So, do you want to get into discussion of like the phasing and the estimate, and then kind of potential next steps from there? Great.
Yes.
All right. So you can all still see our little rainbow colored plan here. So really kind of what we did is we broke up the plan into a whole bunch of different phases, A through G. Really in terms of what we thought the logical kind of construction order would be, but also kind of priority to some degree. And, we kind of put this together and then passed it to the committee and said, if you feel differently, let us know. And no one came back saying, no, we think, phase F should go before phase B or something like that. So this kind of stands based on how we originally put it together when we did it back in January. The first phase being kind of development of, one of the most desired items, which is the more formalized walking track around the soccer field. And there's a fair amount of work involved with that. There's kind of, there's a fence that currently separates the track from the soccer field, but it makes the track when you're, the walking path when you're on it feel like you're a little bit more associated with the road. There's not much separation there. So we're actually saying, maybe the fence line actually moves up towards the road. You put some street trees in to help kind of screen the people who are on that path from the roadway. And then kind of you have to do some regrading to get a level enough path for that, 8 to 10 feet wide that I mentioned. And then there is this kind of existing drainage that comes down through there. There's a little culvert underneath the existing pathway right now. But what we're anticipating is if you want to have this wide path, wide track, that you'd actually probably redo that culvert and extend it just to make it level enough as you come around there. So that was phase A. So that's kind of the walking track at the soccer field. Phase B kind of immediately pulls into, doing the expanded parking area, knowing that, later phases are going to ultimately get rid of the small amount of parking that's currently on site for the recreational uses. So kind of that's the next phase, and that involves, some stormwater upgrades, some walls to support the park, regrading and building and construction of the parking area, along with associated drainage and removal of the current basketball court that's there now. Phase C moves up into the core of the site, and kind of the core of the project being the new pavilion building, the picnic area out behind that, so the pavilion and the bathrooms, kind of the new pathways, accessible pathways up in this zone, as well as the playground. Kind of realigning the roadway and creating the drop off and a little bit of parking and accessible parking in this location. And then also there's an existing drainage that comes kind of underneath the existing roadway and I think filters out kind of this way. Basically what we're thinking is that you'd probably realign it and capture all the hardscape that's up in this area to create some sort of a treatment area, collection area, kind of in this zone between the existing parking and that new sidewalk and stairs, basically to a treatment area there before it then kind of comes and joins this existing drainage down. And then the last piece being like the nature boardwalk and trail stuff out near the Trout Brook. So that's phase C. Phase D, bless you. Phase D is the skating pond, kind of There's an existing, I think it's a class 3 wetland up here, so it's got less constraints on it, but it is still a wetland. It would still likely need to go through permitting, but if you dig it out, you could create that pond I was talking about, do the pavilion, do a little trail that goes through the, through the wetlands, crosses with bridges and boardwalks, and kind of connects back to the pedestrian network here. That's kind of a minor phase, although still, some money involved in creating that pond amenity. Phase E is the new ball field, kind of up on the northern portion of the site. And, there's a bridge, kind of boardwalk over the wetlands, some new pathways kind of to get people around to that, new backstops and dugouts, that sort of thing. Phase F is rebuilding the basketball court behind the emergency services building, the new tennis court, the new skate park. There's some sports lighting. We went with some kind of lighting, sports court type lighting for just that area so that, those amenities could be used into the later hours of the evening. So there's some limited lighting in that zone. And then the final one being just the last little community garden kind of up at the top of the site here. That's the last aspect. It's got its own little retaining wall to make a nice level area. It's got its own little parking area, and then, storage shed and some, the actual garden plots. So those are kind of generally all of the different phases. Really, the only portion of the site that really isn't touched is the existing baseball field and the, emergency services building. I think, if you were to go and undertake a major renovation of the facility, there's quite a bit of heaving going on for the existing fence and dugouts and even benches around the ball field. So there's probably some redoing and some of those elements that would have to get incorporated, although we did not include that in any of our estimating.
Can I comment here, Tom?
Yeah, please.
I know it probably doesn't get used a lot there, but taking that basketball court away, I almost think that phase B should include relocating the basketball court, even if you don't do the whole thing behind the EMS building, because you take that basketball court away and don't put it in till the end of the phases, that's going to be a long time for the ones that have used it and won't be able to use it. And that area in the back is kind of open right now, and you could actually do just maybe the basketball court and then do the parking lot. Just an idea.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's easy enough. There would be some regrading that would likely need to happen, and potentially redoing that drainage a bit. But you're right. If you're going to eliminate it, there's probably a good reason to relocate it at that same time. And I believe, you guys have worked hard to utilize that space for more than even just basketball too. Other games picked on there. So, it's an amenity that people definitely still use and would hope to increase in their use of it.
Yeah, it's almost like you could put the basketball court into phase B with the parking and then keep the tennis court and the skate park as phase F, almost. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great comment.
Then the firemen can get out there and
Play ball.
there you go. No, but yeah, I could just see, some of the youth that are using it, they'd lose interest, like not come back right off. But if it's there and they don't lose that much time, there's another court over here, and it may be a better location for them, and keep them coming there.
Okay. Anything else on the phasing? All right, I'm going to move to the estimate then, and we'll probably have to keep flipping back and forth a little bit. But this was the estimate that we put together back at the beginning of the year. What would probably be most useful is just to stay on kind of this roll-up cover page since it summarizes everything. But we do, as you can see, have each phase broken out in quite a bit of detail for this level of the master plan. So, it is an estimate. So, you can't hold us to this number, but, I feel like we've done a pretty good job of gauging what the total project would cost. And I did have a nice point of reference of doing a similar sized project in New Hampshire a year or two ago with a lot of the same amenities and kind of total area of disturbance, and it came in right around the same number. So doing those estimates separately and still bringing them back to compare, I feel like it's good to confirm that we're kind of in the ballpark as far as the number goes, although it is a high number because there's a lot of elements included in the project and a lot of work that needs to happen, from grading and drainage to the finish and final amenities. And it's like if you're redoing the kitchen at your house, you can go kind of low budget or you can go really high budget. So it's a matter of where you guys as a community end up, not just in the elements that you want to do, but to what level of finish. We start by putting our estimate together based on what some of our ideas of the initial design are in terms of materials, like amount of concrete pavement versus say asphalt pavement. And there's a different premium for each of those. So that's kind of the background. Now, as the other thing is that each of these phases includes what we like to call the soft costs. So things like ongoing design in order to actually kind of complete the design of these projects, both to move towards construction as well as permitting, the potential permitting costs that would be associated with submitting this project to get different kind of state level and town level permits, the say like the contractor markup and contingency for yourselves just to cover unexpected costs. So that's all baked into these numbers. So it's not all just 100% construction costs. But it's always good to keep track of those things, kind of, especially at this early phase, to understand that there's the construction costs plus some additional dollars that would be incurred. So these phases here correlate back to that plan that we just reviewed, but you can see that walking track and kind of all the associated elements that go into it come up to about $186,000. The new parking, that phase B with the stormwater, is about $900,000 for that parking. So if we did include the basketball court relocation, that would come out of say phase F and kind of get add to that phase B number. The drop off and pavilion, phase C, so that would be the new pavilion building, the restrooms, things like the utility connections for power, water, sewer, that type of hookup, some more stormwater treatment, as well as like the pathways, the playground, some site grading, things like that. So that's included in that. And I believe that also had the pathways and kind of boardwalk bridges near the Trout Brook. And phase D is that skating pond and the pathways that go around, kind of around the skating pond. Phase E is the ball field, so that's that ball field kind of on the northern portion of the site. So that's $378,000. Then the basketball courts, $478,000. So that's the basketball, tennis, the skate park. The lighting is also included in that. And then the final element would be the community gardens and kind of the parking along that new entry area or existing driveway. So that was just under $90,000 for all that. So, the total project cost comes to about $3.2 million for everything that is there and that is represented.
Tom, there was a question from Sean when you talk about percentage of contingency baked into the cost. The contingency is, like you're saying, the cost associated with engineering, have you, or is it something different?
So, let me see here.
I think I saw that, Tom. It was a flat 10%, it looked like.
Yeah, so I mean, we pretty much, we kind of just used flat percentages for each of this. This is that first phase. So the walking track, the design and engineering, we just did lump at 12%, and then we did have permitting at a generic kind of 10%, and then if we move to the next page, there's a markup 10% and contingency for the town of 10%, and we kept all those same percentages for each of the different phases.
Thanks.
So, the other way to approach this is, all right, well, how are we actually going to be able to come up with this amount of money or whatever amount of money we want to be able to pay for these different elements of the project, right? And, there's quite a bit of different avenues that can be achieved. And we did put together basically a report that summarizes the project as well as the potential funding opportunities, through the state and also through kind of the national federal level. There's quite a bit of grants around stormwater and land and water conservation grants, and a lot of things that also address recreation. So I think where you've got kind of a nice hybrid of, obviously the main focus of the project is recreation, increasing recreation opportunities, as well as, in doing so, handling stormwater and not just saying, all right, that gravel parking lot's going to drain off into a grass line ditch and through a culvert and kind of get to the trout brook or the river down below. Like, we're actually going to capture it and handle it and treat it before we release it. There's some positive stuff that's happening in the plan that, would be looked favorably upon at both the state and federal level. So there's really actually good funding options from that route through grant funding. Now, the other thing I talked about with Yvonne earlier is that there's nothing specific that I've seen that's come out kind of recently around stimulus funding, but I think this project is right up the avenue of what would be considered a really good project to spend money on from a stimulus standpoint. 10 years ago, I had a project that I had worked on and it sat on the shelf due to lack of funding, and it was a brand new kind of 20-acre park down in Boston. And when the ARA funding came through 10 years ago, it was deemed a really good shovel-ready project. And it, got, I don't know, I think $19 or $20 million worth of funding in order to complete it. So, I think there's a sense of, do we go about this piecemeal and just say, all right, well, let's, the walking track, that's something we could probably cobble together the money, and, let's only address trying to do whatever design and permitting is required to do that. Or do we, SE Group, myself, and kind of even Trudell, when I spoke to them earlier, the recommendations, let's at least take kind of the total plan a little bit further, start to put some reality to it, start to kind of develop things, start to look at seeing if we can get things permitted. That way, when things become, ready to go and you really have a better understanding of funding, things are lined up and ready to say, all right, now we know we have, say $750,000 in grant funding and stimulus funding, and now we can do like a couple of these phases, or we can do the parking area, but it's going to be, trimmed back a little bit to save some money. So I think there's advantages to being a little bit more aggressive in terms of planning, but there's also kind of the natural tendency to maybe be a little conservative in terms of like, this is a big dollar value at the end of the day. Can we achieve it? But, I think just continuing to be smart about the planning and the thought process around the phasing, and, again, how ultimately, you know, the level of finishes and the amount of actual elements you try to incorporate into the project. I think that's all, it's a tricky puzzle for sure. But it's all going to be kind of thought about. All those balls need to be in the air at the same time, thinking about what's involved in the project, what the funding sources are, you know, what do we pull the trigger on in terms of continued design and permitting. So that's, you know, that's kind of my take on it. But I always recommend that people at least go to, say, at least like a 60% if they can in terms of the total picture. It doesn't get them to final design, but a lot of times it gets them far enough along to, you know, get through the permitting process and have things figured out enough that they can, you know, then at that point pick and choose what elements they want to finalize in terms of design and move towards construction. You know, and I guess the last point too is just, you know, the reality of the phasing and the timeline, like being realistic about, you know, obviously I think given the current situation we're in, a lot of people are in the wait and see what happens. And if, you know, the current capital dollars we have end up having to go to some kind of emergency funds or emergency use. But, you know, I think starting by saying, all right, maybe this is a 5-year implementation project, or maybe it has to be 10 years to get all the way through the entire thing. And then understanding like, all right, what does that look like in terms of a 10-year plan or 5-year plan, in terms of kind of the support for it and the, you know, the tax dollars that need to be raised, or, you know, special avenues, and then what can be supplemented with the grant funding.
Great, thank you so much, Tom.
You are welcome, guys.
This is Dean. Does your group do any of the engineering or anything with this, or is that separate?
Yeah, you know, if this continued on, which I'd love to see it do, you know, we would continue on as landscape architects, and we were working with Drudell engineers, and, you know, we would probably continue with that team. They would handle likely the civil side of things, environmental side, and we would continue with the landscape architectural site design and detailing.
Is there any permitting or anything that's gone on, or any engineering that's gone on to get to the footprints we've come up with so far?
The only thing that we've done is do some initial investigation around the wetlands, the extents of the wetlands. And we've both with, is it Michael in town there, Gervais?
Yeah, my brother. Yeah.
Yeah, we worked with him, so he was familiar with the site. So they, I wasn't there, but they walked around with him, confirming some of the wetland extents and kind of where they were occurring on site. And you know, there's obviously a formal process around around environmental constraints with the state. And, you know, it's one thing to walk around the site and say, yeah, I think stuff is here and there, and you know, that's enough to do some initial planning for. But, you know, they're going to want to see all the documentation and field maps kind of and everything delineated, and then get I think Shannon from the state out there to confirm it on site, and actually might be someone different from Shannon, but you know, that's kind of in that bucket of next steps, would be, you know, formalizing a survey of the site and also a formal delineation of the different wetland areas and their classes. That would be ultimately used in the final kind of planning maps, but we have not done any permitting. The one other thing that's come up is kind of utilization of this village parcel. And, you know, if there's ever a sense that you guys are moving in the direction of using that, you can see that the interesting thing is that while we are using the parcel for kind of a portion of like the pavilion and the picnic area, it's actually pretty much the area that's already being utilized for the parking. You can kind of see the gravel edge here. So, you know, I think if there's expanded use, you probably just need to have some sort of an agreement in place with the village in terms of that, you know, the additional features in that area that you would like to do. But there's not been any formal permitting of anything on this project yet. But we've really just summarized kind of the project plan that we've developed, some of the next steps, and the funding resources.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, anyone have anything else, or should I let you guys get on with the rest of your agenda?
I'm good with questions. I don't know if any of the board members have any.
I'm good. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Good job.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to work with everyone in your community, and I do hope we can keep this one moving in some way. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. All right, so next on the agenda is the Opera House grant, water issue in the basement, and roof with the insurance claim question mark.
Is Susie on?
I did not see a rep from the Opera House on. No. No one in waiting room either.
Okay, was she supposed to be on tonight? Or was
Yes.
this something, oh, that's what the request was?
Let me see if I can message her.
While we're waiting for Susie, I can give you an update. The school board is willing to offer the community center a 6-month lease going from June to December because they don't foresee, with all the uncertainty, they don't foresee using the building. And so that should get the community center to December, and then we would at least know for sure when the armory or whatever might be ready. So Yvonne's going to bring that to the rec board just to see what their thoughts about that. So that may come back to.
Okay, so that's not the update that you want to talk about on the agenda about the armory?
No, I forgot to add that. It's basically just letting you the heads up that before they had talked about maybe the community center not being there, but now they're saying we'll do a 6-month lease and just see where everybody's at the end of 6 months.
All right.
And again, it's no rent, it's just utilities.
That sounds fair. Yvonne, are you still on?
Susie's there now.
Susie's
Hi.
here.
Yep.
Hi, Susie.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Terry, you look too freaking comfortable.
Hey, I got recliner. I got more comfortable.
I don't have recliner, but I got my glass of dinner wine.
That straight chair is too straight for me.
So I sent a few informational things out. I don't know if BJ got them to you. After our last meeting, I said that we would get them out. I don't know if they'd come out before, but I'm out to make sure you had them tonight, which was our last year's financial statements for the year. And this really, really big expansive list that the facility committee and Matt came up with. And it was really everything from real structural facility stuff to more theatrical programming, physical stuff. And it's just a document. We tried to capture everything and work off from. Only part of it pertains to you, but I thought I would share it. It's pretty extensive. But on my agenda, the things that I needed to talk to you about was, first of all, to let you know that the the grant, and I don't see Matt on here, but Matt's been talking with, they finally appointed a state coordinator for this grant money. They've got loads of grant money coming in for historical facilities, and we're getting 50,000, and it was kind of put on hold until it's under the name of Paul Brune grant. You know, he died, but this guy's finally on board to be the coordinator. So we're starting to get some information back from him. And Heidi Britch, you know Heidi Britch Valenta, she's going to be working with Matt on that, and she's got a lot of experience with grants, and we've also let Sean know what we're doing. So we should have more information on that as soon as the state gives us the information on that. But that is the windows and hopefully the doors. The original grant was on the presumption that we had $75,000 worth of work to do. And that was because they came to us and said, hey, do you got any projects? And Matt's like, yeah, and just threw this information out. But in reality, there's a number of those windows that, number one, have already been done or we don't need, such as the 2 that we had clapboarded over on the backstage. One of them opens up onto a stairwell with the stairs running through it, and we don't need to rehab that one. We'll never use it. So that $75,000 figure is actually lower. The grants for 50, and we're looking for other grants to do any 50 plus work on there. And we know the Stanley Fund has, I think, 9,000. If we had to come up with a match, there's 9,000 there for match stuff for facility that we're hoping that we could tap into, but that final figure isn't available yet. So that just to get you up to speed on that a little bit. Matt might have more information, but I see he's not here. So with all of this stuff going on and the COVID at the time that it was closing things down, and the timeline that we needed to get a director and people on board for summer camps, our summer musical, our Roaring 20s that we were going to do in the spring, we initially moved to the fall. And then kind of collectively, we had a board meeting and we came up with the decision to suspend our programming for the rest of the year. Having said that, seeing how, because one of the things that is really unknown is what's going to happen in the fall. Are we going to see another spike, a resurgence? If people don't have money, are we going to be begging for every ticket sale and coming out on the wrong end of every event? We can't really afford to do that. We're too close to the line. Thinking probably the community concert in December will be safe enough, and maybe we can do some smaller type events in the fall if things still look good, where we don't pack 100 people in. Maybe it's events that we can make at least break even and have 50 people there and people can be comfortable. I personally, whatever, you know, the leadership says about distancing, I'm probably going to be quite cautious, and I suspect there's other people as well. So we were kind of going with how people we thought might feel. It's a crapshoot, and we decided if we're going to do all this work on windows and whatnot, rather than try to work that in the off season or board up windows and still have people come in, if we're working on the doors, have them enter a different way and all that, we decided, you know what, let's focus on building improvements that have been stacking up and let's not struggle to try to make the programming work when we're already behind the 8 ball on it. So that was our decision to do that. It's out on Facebook, it's out on the website. So to let you know that part, we think we have revamped our budget. We think we can go through the rest of the year without the income based on lowering our expense numbers. And we've had a generous donation from Denny. We don't want to tap into it for that type of thing, but if we have to, we will. We've laid Matt off. He's on an hourly basis right now, hopefully collecting some unemployment. We have our PR girl who's still on an hourly wage, and we're using her to take this time and all our contacts, getting them into spreadsheet, getting them into email, trying to get them apprised electronically of what's going on, revamping the newsletter portion. And she started posting some whatever we can find electronically on Facebook to just remind people we're still here.
Right.
So just to let you know that we did have a windstorm and the ridge cap blew off the building, and some slate. This apparently is a weak point because I remember way back on my watch, the same thing happened. We had, I think Mike Horgan was on the board. We got that Billadu guy. He came in and replaced the ridge cap and any missing slate at that time, and here it's happened again. So I don't know where Billy Joe is on submitting that claim. I have not heard anything from anybody from your municipal insurance about more information and going out for bids to do the work. But that's one thing, new thing to add to the facility piece. And the other part that I thought, we're still chasing down the air quality guy. He canceled because it was right when he was coming in, right when everything got shut down. But now with the non-essential one-person people able to go out, we're hoping that we can get him in there on the air quality piece. And the drainage, I would feel very, very bad if we couldn't tackle that while we're on this semi-blackout situation. I'd like to see that drainage piece get worked on. Matt's made a few new discoveries on that. I don't know if he told you that or if it was via emails with us, but there was water in the conduit that comes from the pole. So somehow water was getting in the electrical conduit, either from the pole or underground. It's been compromised and it was filled with water and water was pouring out of that conduit. He's wondering if that is a major portion of the water that we're seeing. I think we still need to address the drainage because I can't believe all of that is from this conduit, but he has discovered that. And he did ask around a little bit. Apparently an electrician can fix that. I'm not sure how they do that. The conduit's buried underneath the slab.
Yeah, Susie, real quick, if I can add. Yeah, he did let us know about the conduit, the water coming in.
Okay.
And I was talking with Joey about that. Of course, this was all before everything happened, shutting down, about when all the mud season was done and things calmed down, getting with the village and possibly doing something about the drainage. But right now we're like, you know, each road crew member is in their own specific vehicle and that's it. You know,
Yep.
And so we're kind of learning in stages what we can do, and we're hoping that's down the road where we can get that taken care of. Probably going to be more June-ish maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, if anytime, I think at this point, it's not critical that it has to be soon, but if we can get that done and we have air recommendations, if the air quality comes in, if they do discover we have issues, and certainly we'll come back to you with that report. I highly suspect that once we've got all the drainage issues fixed, one of our logical next steps would be to pull up some of that carpet, and the Opera House will go out and see if we can't find a sponsor to pony up some dedication money to replace the flooring. It has gotten soaked. I can't tell you how many times, and when Andy was there, whatever, and they suck it up with a wet vac, and it's just got to be nasty. It just can't be good.
Possible mold growing in there.
Yeah, it can't be good. But we won't go there yet. We'll see what we can get done with the drainage. I wouldn't want to do anything until we have that. We're sure we got it fixed. And then the last thing that I wanted to bring up was the painting project. So I will get Jim Cameron over there to specifically identify areas that he thinks we can tackle as volunteers with his lift and maybe with his help. And then my thought process was, if we could look at how you bid it the last time and maybe cross some things out or make things look a little more appreciable, and then contact, I don't know what you have to do legally. Do you have to go out legally for a whole brand new bid, or can you go back to that last guy and say, listen, we took these things out how much would that adjust your bid? I don't know what your legal process is around that, but we should get that done this year as well. You've got money put aside. You had money put aside last year. It's sitting there. We need to get it done.
Right, yeah, we accepted the original, well, I think it was a year before's bid, but then they came out with a astronomical number, and it's like, well, we're not gonna get,
Right.
we
Right.
didn't put money aside for that.
So the main thing was the tower, correct?
Yes,
So if I could get Jim and the rest of our volunteer help to see if we can take care of the tower, then logically they should be with a slight, price adjustment because it's 2 years old now. Kind of go back more to the original number for those front and side, right?
agreed.
Okay. So I can do that. I can go to Jim and see and articulate exactly what we think we can do there and come back to you, and then maybe we can, but I don't know, do you have to go back out again, or can you continue on the conversation with that guy? I mean,
We probably have to go back into our minutes to see if we, made any decisions. I thought we were still gonna have them do up to that amount, and then
okay,
didn't come through, so because of, I think their work schedule and in the end time of the year, they knew they weren't gonna get it done last year. We'd have to go back on last year's minutes, just see what we legally put in there for the bids. I think they were probably the only ones that bid it at that
I
time.
believe they were every time the only ones. Yeah. I don't know if the present situation, more people are looking for work and they bid, I don't know.
Yeah.
Susie, I was talking with Heidi the other day, and she said something about the Opera House maybe doing the municipal planning grant. Is that for facilities plan?
There's a development and planning group,
Right.
and I'm not sure exactly what that was for.
Okay.
I
would just-
yeah, she would be more up to date on that. I tried to be up to date on all of it, but I'm not.
Right.
That
I would just say that if the friends decide that that's a route that they want to go toward, then just talk with Sean. That way, if any other group is also trying to pony on that one, that he would know who's playing ball.
Yes. I saw that the EI asked that question, and I think there was somebody that got turned down before that might have been interested in reapplying. I'm not sure if I got all the details right. I can't remember who that was, but I will make sure. We have been in contact with Sean a couple times, but I'm not sure about that point, if that one was relayed to him or not. He did share a nice matrix on how to look at grants and which ones to go for. Heidi's also done a nice spreadsheet on a bunch of assets and intangible assets, volunteer hours and whatnot, and what that's worth dollar-wise. So we've got some information at hand to plug in when we're applying for a grant. So we've got a lot of basic tools set up for that. There's Sean.
Have Matt reach back out to me when you get a chance. I've stumbled across a few kind of large federal opportunities that would be really helpful for historic preservation. I would be looking at the MPG's priorities, especially over the last 2 years. They seem to be really focused on, and I just looked at the awards for 2020, nothing in historical preservation. It's all housing, economic development, municipal plans. So, I sent you the matrix to kind of help organizations guide you there, but knowing that the priorities might not match your objectives, something to take into consideration, and really looking at this last round of awards they made in 2020. It's all housing, a ton of housing, some economic development, and then primarily municipal planning. This Vital Village type stuff is primarily what was awarded in 2020.
Yeah, I will. I'll have Heidi and Matt reach out. Matt's on an hourly, and I contacted him a few times today, didn't hear back from him, so not sure what he's doing to augment his time that he's not with us. So he might be having a second job that I don't know about. But definitely we'll reach out to you, Sean, and there's just so much that flows through it. It's easy to say, oh my gosh, and I know how much work gets into it. So I haven't clicked on full focus with that piece as much as the other pieces. So
Right. And Sean, maybe you would know more, but with the Friends not being a municipal board, it would have to go through the select board, I believe,
Correct.
in
Yeah.
order for that
You would
to
have
even be a
I
thought.
believe you would
right?
have to
Okay.
be the primary grantee
Applicant, yeah,
applicant or endorse. I can't remember exactly how, but it's doable. You would assume the risk essentially
Right.
as,
okay.
as a select board.
while I'm on here, I see BJ, you're there, Billy Joe. Can you, have you reached out on the insurance claim?
I've not, I was waiting for this meeting to talk to the board.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Yeah, it's on the agenda. We didn't know you were online because this is all virtual to me.
it's working pretty good, huh?
Well, yeah, I keep getting phone calls on my iPhone though. So I gotta do something different in that aspect. But anyways, yeah, we had just talked about it on the agenda. We hadn't discussed anything until we got you online.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that we can, is this being taped? It is. Recording.
Yes.
I'm hoping that, we can get somebody up there and they can look at everything that's going on and make sure everything's top notch at the end of the project up there. Slate's a different animal. There's not a lot of people like to deal with that.
So you probably don't know exactly, but a similar amount of damage as last time, or?
I would say so. The ridge cap is laying underneath the stairs now. Chris saw it, pulled it off of the backyard. And it seems to be a point. I don't know if they can do something different. So the next major windstorm, I mean, it's been a number of years, but still, I don't know.
Susie, is this the same ridge cap that you repaired before when you had that Billadoo? Well,
I
I'll fix
think
it.
they replaced the whole thing. So I think it would be a new ridge cap because I think it got pretty banged up and damaged when it got tore off the building the last time. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's a new ridge cap. But my question would be on how they're securing it to the building. I don't know a lot about it, but I know that I think he did work on Mike Horgan's barn. It's at, you know who it is, right?
Not really. I don't.
Billadoo.
Pierre says he's out of Bakersfield.
Oh, I thought it
Yeah,
was Berkshire. Okay.
yeah, local. But maybe there's someone else. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But it's quite a project. They had a lift and a boom and went way up there, and yeah, I got a chance to ride up, and I'm like, no, I'm number one, not with you, and number two, I'm scared of heights.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah, but if you have any leads, I mean, I think like with painting, we could say, listen, this is up for bid. Do you want to bid on it? If
Yeah, okay.
that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions on the documents I sent you?
No, I just barely printed them out tonight there, and I haven't really got a chance to really go through it.
So
So,
the
I just want to make sure I got my numbers right, because you know how like the school budget's different. The
Yep.
parentheses mean you're in the plus, right?
no, that's the negative.
Okay, because the way it's worded, the way it's worded at the top of the document, it says money. How is it worded?
So we have an actual expenditure, we have a budget, and then we compare it to the previous year, I believe. I don't have it up in front of me. There's usually 3 columns on the profit and loss. Let me pull it up. And sent. Profit and loss. So, yeah, so you have, oh yeah, I see what you're talking about. So we budgeted, so for instance, on the annual campaign, we budgeted that we would bring in 12,500. We brought in 8,700. So we were 3,700 to the negative of our goal. Does that
Okay.
make sense? So that document kind of is self-explanatory. I feel like Vendini, as I'm looking down, Vendini is the ticketing agent we use that does our newsletters and online ticketing. And it also captures a lot of patron information so that we can craft our reach it out to particular groups depending on what events they come to. We haven't fully utilized it, but they take a little percentage of ticket sales. It was a one-time upfront fee that we paid probably 10 years ago, so there's no other fee involved. I don't know what the consulting was. I don't know what that was. Not
Yeah, that's
sure.
fine. I was just making sure I was reading it correctly. Okay.
Yeah, yep. And then on the other document, the balance sheet, there's some accounting crap in there that I really don't understand, but you know, like assets depreciation, that type of stuff. But that also tells you our bank account balances at the end of the year. And then January, of course, we were paying some bills that came in December and our payroll in December. We do put Matt at half-time for January and February because we're dark. That's something new that we didn't do in the past, but when we brought him on, we did. And then doing this now with the hourly. He's checking in weekly. He's making any deposits, catching the mail, answering phone calls. And then we're hoping that he'll focus on this grant stuff with Heidi. And then on the building facilities thing, you saw an extensive list. We tried to break it down, kind of see where we're going. There was so the T stands for town. I think that's like the third column over. I don't have that one open either. There was just a couple things that were involved in their painting. And then the G stands for grant. Some of it we were looking for grant. Another one was volunteer and things that we were going to do. But things tend to get lost with different board members, different managers. Bring it up at one meeting and then you don't see it again for another year. And then you're like, oh, didn't somebody mention it? So we really thought capturing this stuff down on a list so they don't get lost as we move forward. It'll help.
Yeah, this is very helpful. Definitely keep it on a file right there in the town clerk's office. So any of the select board members kind of drop tires at home, we can just, hey, BJ, can you?
Yep, and everything we have is on a Google account. So if we ever need things, we've got it.
Good.
Is there anything you would like from us? I mean, I definitely will get back to you on the air quality. And for the life of me, I can't think of somebody who is engineer said they would offer time to look at the ditching, but it sounded like the curtain drain that you guys were talking about sounded like the logical thing to him. And I said, I think that there is one there. Oh, I know, there was, who did they have? They had somebody come through the Opera House and there was somebody that Heidi and Matt talked to, and it was about runoff and drainage and whatnot, possible grant money for that, but they were looking more toward the town parking lot of creating something to capture the runoff from the town parking lot. And maybe tying in whatever we have going over on the Opera House into whatever we could do there and then sending it on its way. I'm not sure where. I don't remember all of that, but I'll make a note for Matt to kind of type that up and send it your way.
Yeah, we can question Joey and Probably somebody
Did-
from the village may know something about the directions of all those drainages.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right, because that would be a town issue, but, I
I
will,
did speak to Matt about that, but the problem with is it's going to take a lot of effort because that street right there belongs to the state, not the village.
Depot Street belongs to the state?
Yes.
Okay,
Because of the railroad.
Because of the railroad.
oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's all I got.
Susie, I got a question.
Yeah,
I know a while ago, there needed to be some work done to those emergency lighting.
yep.
Has that been done?
I believe Matt did it. I told him to get someone in to do it and let you know, and you guys could do it, but I believe he ordered the batteries and everything and got it done, but I will check with him to confirm, but I think that was last year, and I think he got it done.
Yeah, it was a while ago, and I just wanted to make sure it got done.
Yep.
Okay.
He tends to get a fire under his butt around that. I wish I could get him doing that on other things, but he really likes that building stuff, so
Yeah.
I will check with him. I know he has done a number of other things. He's gone out and gotten quotes and information around our current alarm system. It's getting to the point that they're having a hard time if they had to get parts. I think it's still in relatively good shape, but I guess it's on that end where it's so old, they'd have a hard time finding parts for it. And then it does have some drawbacks. Like right now, if you sand a wall, the darn thing takes off and rings and whatever. And then you got a couple false sensors there. And so I don't know what information he got back on that. I think it was rather astounding and surprising. But
Okay.
we should get that filed with you. And then if the right grant came upon for that, we could jump on it and have it all ready. So,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you, Susie.
All right.
Thanks, Susie.
I'll leave you. Have fun.
Stay safe.
Okay.
All right. Wow, we're right on time. Look at that. 8 o'clock, and next on agenda at 8 o'clock is Sean Keogh for economic development update.
I guess.
John,
Sean.
I like just sitting in the wings waiting. Wanted to take a few minutes, fill you guys in. Polly and Dean, being a part of my oversight committee, are aware of some of the things I've been working on, but at the very least I can show everyone else some of the other things. Let me share my screen. This one I want. Yeah, we'll go this one. For those who are not aware, I launched a Enosburgh Economic Development website. January, February, maybe now. I can't recall exactly when it was. So on here has got a good amount of information. I'll kind of quickly go through it. A simple link, eedvt.com, Enosburgh Economic Development, Vermont.com. Homepage, just the purpose really is to kind of highlight Enosburgh, both for two purposes: make it an intriguing place for people to come check out and learn more about it, but also for business opportunities. So there's a few really interesting, unique tools that didn't exist before. Currently there is a section for COVID-19 all about the business sector right now. I'll share that with you a little bit. This is just kind of the home page. We'll take a look at the COVID thing. So I adjusted the page kind of on the fly, just kind of out of necessity and what we needed. We have had hundreds of people visit this page, which is great. So on here is a listing of all of our local businesses, restaurants, retail shops, services. As much as I could get on here, anyone that was left out, I gave them an opportunity to kind of reach out. But on here, it shows whether or not they're open, closed, have modified hours, and then also what their contact is. For the restaurants, as Billy Joe knows, there are links to all of their menus, so folks can just click right there. So we try to make it as easy as possible. rather than having to hunt down phone numbers or find out what businesses were open, we have kind of one place for all this information. Also down below here are some incentive programs, relief programs, and as that information has come available, I've published it here for local businesses. And through the process, quite a few folks have reached out to me and just have had questions, primarily on CARES Act stuff, but I've tried to make this information as available as I can, and also published it on Facebook as well, which the EBA has been great at sharing that information to their members and getting that stuff out. On here, there's a section about Enosburgh. This just kind of shows a quick overview of Enosburgh, some information about transportation and logistics. This is more, should somebody be interested in coming to learn more about the community, things to do. This isn't by no means a comprehensive list. It just kind of gives an overview. And I briefly talk about some of the things that are happening, the Vital Village project, rec field enhancements, some of that we're an active community, and we're working on some progress. This is the biggest section here under resources. In a lot of my talks with local business owners and community members, there was this sense of not really knowing where to go for information. So I've placed it all in one place. So here on resources is an area here on essentially, 9 steps to start your business. Who do you need to talk to, places you need to go, professional business organizations, training and education programs that are available, the utilities, simple things like that. People, who do I need to contact to get trash pickup, or, what's the, internet or phone provider in the area. And then taxes and incentives, programs that are available here. I know, Polly, you had mentioned the Enosburgh Falls village tax stabilization. We do need to plug that in there at some point. I know that you wanted me to hold off on that.
I don't think it's. I don't think it's village tax stabilization. It's Enosburgh town.
Okay. I mean, we can change it. I didn't plug anything in there at the time. So.
Yeah.
Funding and grants.
John, did I send you that? Sorry.
I had the original stuff, but at the time there was something at one point you told me to hold off because we needed some clarification on. So I didn't.
We need to amend something.
Yes.
We do. You're right. Okay.
I didn't publish any information on it. Here is at least this is a growing list as I find things. This is a categorized list of grants and funding opportunities by category. So community development, there's a big list here. Infrastructure, this is primarily for municipalities. Education, workforce, human services, and then a big section for businesses. And this is everything from actual, loan programs to things like the FedEx Small Business Grant, which is more of a trade of value. They give you, dollar amounts for, finding or to be able to, print materials for your business and things like that. So those are kind of unique opportunities that people don't really think about. So we put all these here, things in here for veterans and women-owned business and things like that as well. So this is a place that people can go to and find out opportunities that are available to them. Lastly, this was probably the biggest undertaking for this was one-stop shop to find locations in Enosburgh for potential business owners. We'll see if this will load up at the same time I'm doing a Zoom call. But basically there's an interactive map that shows either physical locations or land potential for development. And it's all in one place. You don't have to call around to 15 different realtors. You don't have to drive through town and look at signs and windows to find out who owns the property. This is now available. So here is, let's zoom in here. Can everyone see this here?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And then within here, you can actually click and it will open up. It'll zoom in on that location and it'll open up a window, or at least it should. There it goes. It'll open up a window and it will show you who the contact is. It'll also show you the allowable use of that space. I worked with Angela quite a bit to identify locations. So it'll have the contact information, the contact person, as well as what the space is zoned for. So there's like we also put the industrial park in here. We broke that out really, really nicely. Some of this stuff you couldn't find online. You know, if you're not driving through Enosburgh, you know, you don't know it exists, or if you don't know somebody that property is available. So now this stuff is categorized, it's online, it's searchable. So as you know, we're still working on our online presence, and as people do Google searches, but it's now available. Someone from outside of the area can now search this information and find it relatively easily.
Yeah, it's nice.
Let me back out of that. Contact, news and media, just some additional information. But this was the big project back in probably January, February. I don't know exactly when it was launched. Some other items. Website's good to go. I worked with fire and ambulance to get, more so fire than ambulance, to get FEMA grants submitted. I feel pretty confident in the fire department's grant for a washer extractor and some PPE gear. Me and Mark worked really great together to get that done. Let's see, the rec department was looking at doing a AARP grant. I advised them it was a little bit early, and I think things worked out. That program is currently on hold anyway. A lot of grant programs are currently on hold due to COVID. So a lot of the things that were kind of in motion are being pushed back to the fall, or the funds are being reallocated. So it's going to be interesting over the next probably 6 to 12 months to kind of see what how grant programs are going to look. I did build what's called a grant decision matrix that I've been getting out to organizations. I have that here. This is a tool that some of these items I had been thinking about, and I picked up, some concrete items specifically from that grant workshop that I went to back in February. And this was one of those items, was a grants decision matrix. This will help organizations, including us, to determine whether or not we should actually go after a grant, take the time and initiative and, put in the effort that it's going to take to go after a grant. This will help us determine whether or not we should do that. And there's a lot of different factors here. Do we have a relationship with the organization? Is the award sufficient enough to meet our need? Do we need collaboration with other partners? How competitive is it? Do we have enough time to write the proposal? Those types of things, rather than kind of ad hoc, like, hey, we got this grant due next Wednesday, let's go ahead and flip it really quickly and get it done. This will help us kind of make those decisions a little bit better, rather than just kind of willy-nilly kind of applying for grants. The Opera House is now using this. There's some other organizations that have seen it and they do like it. This I think is going to be really helpful. There's been Rec is using it long-term for their big development projects. So this will be a useful project as we put it more into practice.
It's nice.
Let's see what else we have here. We were due to do in a collaboration with EBA, a lunch and learn series, where it's going to talk about a number of different things. The first set of classes was primarily based around marketing and helping local. Again, this all came out of me going around town and talking to a lot of the business owners. There was a lack of comfortability with just online marketing and various levels of understanding. So offering some level of just kind of entrepreneurial, early stage kind of online marketing seminars or classes. They were supposed to be in person. We've now shifted those. The first one is tomorrow at noon. They're going to be held online, Zoom for free. It is long-term going to be an EBA-led program. It's something that I had talked to EBA about expanding their offering and being more of a business association rather than an organization just kind of host events and more of a social club. They really want to contribute and be supportive of local businesses, and this was one of those ways. So I was going to help them get this program started, and then long term they were going to run with it. So hopefully come fall, late summer, hopefully we'll get back into the EBA will offer up some more. The marketing class seminars do start tomorrow at noon. Strategic plan, hierarchy needs. So that's something I had talked about within my committee. And it seems to be a general theme with most. You just heard the Opera House talking about drafting a facilities plan or strategic plan. Long term, most grant programs now are requiring this. Like, you have to have a long-term strategic vision or a hierarchy of needs of what you want. Excuse me. And I've built, a really basic version of a project management tool. Talks about outcomes, activities. I just dumped in some information just to show an example. Do you require partners? What's your targeted timeline, estimated budget? Are you setting aside allocated funds? What are some grant funding sources that could potentially be available? Really simple tool that pretty much anyone can use. They can adopt it to their own needs, but this is something that might be helpful to several organizations. The Opera House is seeing this, as well as the Historical Society. The Historical Society put in a letter of intent for historical grants in the early spring and was denied because they did not have a project plan, did not have a facilities plan. So they weren't even invited to apply for the grant because they didn't have this. So long term, ideally, we want to work with every organization, even all the departments, to have more of a strategic plan, kind of 1, 3, 5 years outlook, so we know specifically what we want to look for. So we don't run into a scenario where, oh my God, this equipment's no longer certifiable. We need to get money tomorrow to replace it, that type of thing.
Yeah, we had talked in the economic, right? So Sean was talking about how he brought this to the committee, and we thought that if every department kind of did that, then we, even in budgeting season, would see, like, what do you need in 5 years? What do you need in 2 years, right? It might help us make some better decisions. And it would clue Sean into to watch for the grants ahead of time that would pay for some of those things. So I think it's a good idea.
Lastly, this was the update I sent last week. As you guys know, I've been helping out pretty much every organization, town and village, to help them kind of navigate online remote meetings a little bit. I lived this world for several years prior to this, so this wasn't too big of a transition for me. So I was more than willing to provide some help where I could. Economic Development is hosting every day, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. What's coined Business Brew, and it's I can open it here. It's simply a Zoom chat for business owners or community members who want to jump in and just have a chat. It's been, the first couple days was me and Matt Miner, and that was about it. And then the word got around, and today we had 5. There was last Tuesday we had 12 on the call. So it's been kind of growing, and we get, depending on the day, we get anywhere from 6 to 10. It's been pretty good. And the idea is, I came across this article about this general who ran the Iraq war right at the very beginning, and he developed this way to get communication out more effectively. The topic of it was communicating during a period of uneasiness and during chaos, and the idea was just creating a sense of normalcy. Think of it as kind of a virtual coffee shop that you can just kind of drop into and just kind of have a chat with, your neighbors or other folks who are going through the same thing. That call we had, the first week was primarily me getting information out about a lot of the loan programs and, who folks need to talk to. Last Tuesday, I thought was one of our best calls. It was, about the stress of all this, as a local business owner, how are folks dealing with it, and I think it was really helpful for several folks just to offload that in conversation and just kind of share their concerns and, what they're going through. And, it was actually a really good conversation. That one ran long, but it was a good one. I think these have been really helpful, and we're going to continue to do these, every day at 9. So that's another item that I've been working on. I'm trying to think of anything else. Vital Village, there's a meeting tomorrow evening, I think. Maybe Wednesday. Vital Village, I've jumped into the last couple sessions with that. I've been, just due to my experience, I've been helping them with the process. I think some of you may know that they did apply for the MPG grant to help them do their rebranding initiative as a part of the Vital Village project. They did not get it. And I approached Matt Miner, and we had discussed, why wait around? Why, sit here and, wait for another grant opportunity to come around to tackle this, that, between, myself and several other folks in the community who either work in communications or marketing or designers, creative arts folks, we have the capacity to handle this ourselves. And I've project managed several rebranding projects for major companies, and just providing some input and some workflow to help them work through that process. So there's a meeting. The next step of that meeting is going to be Wednesday evening. Other than that, it's been an interesting time. Lots of one-on-one calls and folks that are concerned and trying to help them navigate their issues with their businesses, and just folks kind of, I've had a couple folks, call and be like, hey, I applied for unemployment. Any idea when I'm going to get my check? And I'm like, I'd be a millionaire if I probably knew that answer. There's a lot of uncertainty, and, I think it's been good to have somebody that someone can call and voice those concerns. And I think, most of the time people just want to, vent for 5-10 minutes, and, they feel better afterwards. So it's been good. I think that's, it was definitely a shift from what the focus was. And, I'm over the next 6 to 12 months, it'll be interesting to kind of see what the economic development plan will look like, because I think it'll need to shift a little. We may need to, rather than what we were looking at, and may need to be a little more recovery aspects of it. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see, where we're going long term. Questions?
Yeah, for sure, Sean. When we had you take on a position, we didn't foresee something like this coming down the pike. And it's definitely great to have you on board with that techie experience to help us get through this. And I think it is going to be, they don't have a vaccine for this, so we're going to probably be doing a lot more things like this, the way the business is going to be done in the interim.
Yeah, I think, with the latest round of, I guess, kind of relaxed business restrictions, I got 2 calls today from local businesses who were just kind of like, okay, what does this mean for me? I got that right at the very beginning as restrictions were starting to roll out. Businesses were kind of like not really sure what these meant and what category were they in, and helping them kind of make those decisions, and not consulting, but advising in a way that just kind of like, well, like, can't tell you what to do, but this is technically what you should do. Kind of easing them into, a hard decision for a lot of folks is, shifting the way they do their business. I think the digital marketing, online marketing stuff, classes that, I'll be helping lead over the next couple of weeks, I think it's coming at a really good time for a lot of businesses who need to kind of refocus and rethink, okay, well, maybe I need to shift my business a little bit and, offer up my products or services and maybe in a different way. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to kind of see so far the interest has been pretty high, and there's a good amount of confirmed folks that want to attend. So that's good.
Yeah, that's a really great idea with your coffee shop talk, because you can't get out there like everybody used to and mingle with everybody. And this is a great way to do it. I like that idea.
Yep. Any questions?
We appreciate all you've done to adapt through this crisis time, Sean. Everything. It's all good.
Good job.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
What's next?
Okay. All right, so next, we have ambulance billing, tire and employee question, executive session and Comstar update.
Maybe we should let Angie do her thing before we go into that, so we can maybe do executive.
At the end.
So Angie's would be the update with Tractor Supply.
Right.
She's right here.
Howdy, everybody.
Hi, Angie.
Angie.
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to update you guys on this, but I'm going to anyway, only because you're the town, but I just feel like several of us have spoken about this Tractor Supply stuff, and I just wanted to let you know where that's at. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So as you know, this started back in December, and they, for one reason or another, kept getting canceled, either because their proposal didn't meet our village regulations twice. In the end, in March, the March 11th hearing was canceled because regional planning is opposed to their application as it was submitted. So there's been discussion, and I know that some folks feel like, let's not scare potential growth away if it's really what it's supposed to be. And I know this is the village limits, but I still want you guys to know, I guess as community members as well, that I've chatted at length with Scott Mapes, the engineer, on this, and then also Catherine Dimitrick about it, just to kind of get their take on it. They've had various conferences like this as well. I was not in on those. I know Jonathan was in on it, and he and I have spoken too. And he too feels like we want to make sure that we're not scaring them off, but certainly want to be adhering to the regulations, et cetera. So one of the recent discussions I had with Scott Mapes last week was, he said, hey, we really can't get anywhere with regional planning. One, regional planning is so understaffed right now and pretty overworked, probably pretty well taxed out. So I think it's Catherine Dimitrick mostly trying to run that office with Greta and the others too, but I think there's just so much, and I don't know that they've brought their new person up to snuff. So when Tractor Supply came to regional and said, okay, what's your beef? Why aren't you accepting our proposal? Catherine's response was, I don't have time for this, so go figure it out kind of on your own, both because she's busy and it's also their task. They're very well seasoned developers. This is Pomerleau, as you know, and it's also this New England Retail, which is a developer who's very seasoned in development. And they keep coming back with proposals that don't work. Catherine has said, nope, not that either, basically. It goes against regional planning's criteria 9L and 10, which prohibits strip mall developments, which is really what we have up there next to McDonald's and Hannaford's and all that. But although that was allowed then, they're not wanting to allow more of that. And so this is what this developer is up against. So the developer now comes to me and says, hey, what if we do a stakeholders meeting for the village and town people, get all the stakeholders, that being the landowner, the village, obviously, so somebody who represents the village, the trustees, some of the business owners, maybe somebody from the, I guess I would say, and I'm asking you guys what you think, the EBA, should probably, so a representative from the EBA. And I guess I'm asking, do we feel as though somebody from the EI should be invited? And then do you guys feel as though you are a stakeholder in that as well, in terms of, or maybe as community members saying, hearing them out as to what their master plan and their build out plan is for that lot that is up there? Because there's some unanswered questions with them. Like I'll say, well, what are you doing with this section over here? Oh, well, we're not really sure. Well, why don't you put the building over there? Well, we don't want it there because, maybe we have plans. So there's kind of a lot going on there. So they want to hear the public out. And I don't know.
They want to hear the public out about what? Like what we want? Like
yep. And they also, and I guess I feel as though maybe Catherine Dimitrick or somebody from regional should be there to represent them, because they're not going to continue with the hearing process on a local level until there's regional planning's feeling good about this. So maybe if regional planning, who's kind of scaring them away a little bit, can hear what the public wants in front of this developer, in front of all of you, the village, and all the different stakeholders, that maybe regional will understand and soften a little bit, not on their regulations, but sort of understand, okay, this is what we expect from you then. Because they're not really getting an answer from regional.
Well,
So
and so is there some kind of criteria that makes it a strip mall? Like, is it like square footage, or what
so-
makes it a strip mall?
So what makes it a strip mall is, and it's, once you listen to Catherine's rendition of what regional planning's idea of what it should look like over there is, there goes an ambulance. It is different than what you can see there now. They want all new buildings, new proposed structures to front the lot and have parking on the back and on the side. They want them to be,
Okay.
they want facades to look more aesthetically pleasing. They don't want any concrete looking things. They're not real excited about the current idea behind what Tractor Supply buildings look like, and they feel as though Tractor Supply really needs to go back to the drawing board and develop a new plan on what this facade ought to look like, because they don't like it. So one of the
I feel
things
like
that
that's overreaching.
pardon?
I feel like that's overreaching, like to actually decide what a facade should look like.
Well, they don't want it to be, they want it to be maybe charming. I know that aesthetics and facade is definitely a part of the regional plan.
Right,
And they don't
okay.
want any of that, Route 66 look or whatever, whatever they're trying to avoid. And so
Right.
I'm kind of glad that they concern themselves with that. Regionals definitely got their heels dug in on what they're going to allow. And so these folks feel like they can't move forward. So I kind of tried to feel them out and say, well, where are you guys? Are you feeling like pick up camp and leave? Are you, well, you said no, they're frustrated, but Pomerleau really wants to make this work. New England Retail, who is a developer for Tractor Supply, is saying, we got $30,000 Act 250 application in right now. It's kind of hard to walk away from it. So, but come on, Enosburgh, what do you want? Come on, regional, what do you want? Enosburgh, I think, and Matt, I don't know if, is Matt Miner still with us? No. He and I spoke the other day, and he's just great. He's a board member now and a great community member, but he just has some really great ideas. I think a discussion would be great. And I don't know how you guys feel that would be, or if you feel you'd want to be in on it.
I feel like the select board should be in on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we should go to the table. I just am wondering about how many cooks in the kitchen you want. You want it to be full on public?
Well, that's kind of why I'm going to you guys. I haven't even spoken to Jonathan yet, but and I haven't mentioned it to anybody else yet either. I think what they're hoping for is at least a representative from each stakeholder, and inside of those stakeholders, they're considering like maybe somebody from the EBA and people that live around there, the community, somebody that represents the community body, that sort of thing. And what they're saying, this is intended to be, it's earmarked as a commercial growth area. So what do you want there? Because they're not orienting this structure on this lot very well. It's way over. It's not near 105 and Jayview Drive like regional is saying. And I'm saying, well, what are you doing with that over there? Well, maybe we have some future plans for that. Well, I said, well, then what about a master plan that you're then phasing and that you're probably going to be forwarding some monies for, and there has to be some sort of an agreement with the board that, and this board also needs to understand, you probably do, Polly, and Larry, that there needs to be some money, and there needs to be some phasing, some timing, all of those things, if they're going to.
The thing is,
and they're willing to do that.
On something like this, just a quick question is,
oh, hey, Pierre. Sorry.
how come, why aren't they showing us the master plan?
Yeah, it seems like there needs to be
Because the
some
thing is that we're going through and you're getting overly stressed on something that regional is looking like they're dictating, but it's like
Yeah.
at the end, there has to be somewhat of a layout so that these questions can be answered. And otherwise we're just guessing at all of this.
Yeah, we're not getting anywhere.
Right. And the other thing is that how much more does regional want to dictate and how a Tractor Supply building is going to look? Because I mean, if you go to the one down at St. Albans, it's a simple building. I mean, we're not going to put,
It kind of fits what Tractor Supply is.
that's what the nature of it is.
But I think, yeah, having that meeting, it's like you can have that compromise saying like, look, you need to come up with some kind of master plan and you need to give a little on what the facade, it's not going to be a boutique. Like it's going to have to, right? I mean, it's
it looks, it looks like it's got a fence and it's going to have all kinds of stuff inside and the outside is just a plain front building and they're not going to lay out a whole mess of stuff out there. It's all going to be interior in the back. But
yeah. So what Scott Mapes has said, the engineer who's working very closely with Matthew Darling, which is New England Retail, the developer, is saying the doctor's office over there on the dentist's office over there. I mean, that
on the Water Tower Road.
Yeah, he's kind of saying, is that what Enosburgh wants? So they want it to be charming and cute like that? We would consider something like that. Well, we just need to know what you're looking for.
Right.
So I'm over here saying, Pomerleau's salivating to get rid of this lot. Regional wants things to look nice. I do too. And the difference between the one in Swanton, which is or St. Albans there, which is actually Swanton.
Okay, yes.
Theirs is on a side road where ours is on our main highway. And that's, I think, one of the sticking points for regional. I kind of appreciate the way they're thinking, but I'm afraid that they're going to scare, like I mentioned to you, Polly, and to Dean, like, you don't really want these people to pick up and leave either. And then have us, while we're doing all this work to try to sell Enosburgh to thoughtful growth, that the reputation is that we scared people off that, might have been a viable option for us. So
yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea to have a meeting.
Yeah, and they would really like to do that. I said, well, I know time is of the essence for you guys. You really wanted to be up and running and open before COVID happened. By August, September, they wanted to get in on that fall stuff. Where are you at? And they said, well, at this point, it doesn't matter to us. But we do not want to meet by Zoom. We want to meet in person, and we want to have. So we're willing to wait, I guess, until this is over. So I was a little more hopeful when I heard that they're not, already packing up camp and leaving.
What's up, Sean?
Is there I'm new to this process, so I don't quite understand. I mean, is there if we as a community disagree with regional, is there a mechanism to override regional, or does regional just have this master kill button that can just kill the deal because they don't agree with Tractor Supply's plan?
I think it's the Act 250 permit.
Yeah, Act 250 and regional must agree. But I think that Act 250, if they, correct me if I'm wrong, Polly, I believe if Act 250 sees that regional planning, which is really who's looking after us here, doesn't agree, then they're not going to sign an amendment to the existing Act 250 permit.
Unless we have a pretty compelling case.
So,
right. For instance, like the Walmart and regional went toe to toe for 10 years.
Yeah.
And ultimately they were granted their Act 250 permit, but 10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, normal development without an Act 250, we don't need any approval from regional really, but it's because it's at that level.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Do you feel, Polly, that if Catherine Dimitruk were in at a meeting and hearing the community's wants and needs, that she would understand and maybe soften and go, okay, well, as long as you do. And she's really just saying to Tractor Supply, look at the local regulations and do the right thing, because they're really not. They're definitely skirting around it. They certainly have wetland ramifications to deal with.
I think Catherine knows her own mind. I think Catherine's like, do what you know. I think I don't think she's gonna bend easily at all. However, they should be following the regulations. I mean, that's why they're there. They should be. Like, if it says that you need to have aesthetic buildings like the rest of the character, then that's what you have to do as a developer. We have those regulations for a purpose. So I would have to agree with her on that one. But yeah, I think Catherine, I don't think she's going to go quietly. But
and the thing is that she's got our best interest at the same time, but then it's one of those of, yes, regional set these regulations and we abide by them, and all the other businesses have to abide by them. So it's like, we meet with them and we say, this is how it is. What are your plans? How's it going to end up looking in the end? And
it might be good to have the meeting so we can say to Catherine, what would it take for this to happen? And if she says, well, I need at least this to happen, and be like, are you willing to do that? Right. So it might be good to just get some compromise going, I guess.
Yeah, something. I would think that, and if you're all in the same room, a compromise happens and everybody's able to move forward, because it's been, it's been upwards of 5-6 months, and we just keep circling this thing. But know this, they're coming at you at DRB saying, look, we're trying to make it look exactly like it looks over there already. We're fitting it into the character. But the thing is that the regulations now are saying, yeah, don't make it like that, though. We don't want that.
Right.
Is regional using our regulations or their own?
Both.
Wouldn't ours overrule theirs or not?
I mean, it says in the village regulations that any construction needs to fit the aesthetics of the local buildings. So that's why, again, Notch, the DRB should never have let Notch build that building the way that it looked.
That's what I was going to say too, Polly.
Yeah. So the fact is that it says in there that you have to basically create facades that fit into the local character. So they may be digging in on that point. That's why I was like, isn't that kind of overreach? I can't believe they're fighting it so hard, but.
Is this so am I wrong in feeling that it's not up to me, but well, maybe as a community member, is it wrong that we expect, if the applicant is saying, hey, if the dentist's office, which one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Bruin or whatever.
It's very attractive. If that's what we're trying to mirror things to, great. See, and Scott said, speaking for the developer, if that's what they want, that's what you need to say, and we'll go back and we'll do the pluses and minuses and see if we can afford it. But we need to know what else. And I guess I want to know what this master plan is. They finally submitted one to Catherine. I've not seen it yet. So it'd be interesting to see what it is. So
sometimes we just need to get them in a room and say, what do you want? What are you willing to do? Let's do something about it.
Yeah. So that's where things are at. Does the select board want to send a representative or two to that meeting? Is that appropriate?
Meeting.
To the stakeholders meeting?
I think we should.
Definitely appropriate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who else do you feel we should have in there without creating too much? I mean, I don't want to leave people out.
Yeah,
definitely. I think Sean, the village, obviously the village office, maybe somebody from the EBA. What about EI?
I think to start with, wouldn't it be a little bit easier if we had less people, just to get a grip on it, and then you know, the second one, we can expand more, but I mean, if you have too many people coming in all at once,
Well, there
there's
will
just
be
too
only
many.
one stakeholders meeting. There'll be just that one, I think, and
Yeah,
then.
but I feel
then we'll-
like the regulations are the regulations. The public can be like, do whatever they want. We want business. That's not reality. The reality is you have to follow the bylaws. So, you know, the public can say what they want. It's not what's going to happen.
I
You
think
know what I'm saying? So that's
I
what,
do. I totally do. I think what I'm
Yeah.
saying is getting Catherine in, Dimitrick in here. She's the stopping point right now.
right.
Get her in the room so that she can hear this community saying, look, this is what we want, regional. So soften or back it up or, you know, do something so that we can move on here.
If you're gonna do something like that, then you go through and you make the whole thing public and you just bring them into the room. But I'd like to know what their final plan is before we even think of doing that.
Well, then, no, from the stakeholders meeting, we would then go into a DRB process.
Yeah. I think that's where the full public comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
This
feel
is-
like, yeah, I
Do they
I
still
don't
have
know.
the economic
I'm
development?
weary.
Oh, EFEDC maybe? What do you
Yeah,
think of
somebody
that?
from them? Which,
EFEDC might be somebody like, because there are folks in there that could also easily represent EI, and then EI wouldn't feel as though they were left out.
I don't think this first meeting ought to be open to the public.
I'm leery about that too.
Yeah.
Why are you guys saying that? I don't disagree, but why are you saying it?
Well,
Like, what are you concerned with?
to me, it's going to be like too many people that could be negative on this project, or I don't know. I mean, I don't think you want too much of a crowd there to start off with. And then if you got your DRB hearing, then that's when the public can, you know, move in and say what they want to say. That's just my feeling.
I guess my gut effort here is to have Catherine Dimitrick hear representatives of each stakeholder position on what this community wants for growth.
Right.
I think you're going to find 2 buildings ending up there instead of just one. I don't know what that second one is, but it's in the build out.
Who would you be thinking on the EBA? Somebody like Shauna?
Yeah, if she would, or or I think Diana Benoit. Well, she lives in Franklin though, so yeah, maybe Shauna. You know, somebody who lives in town or village would be good.
From me bouncing around to all the different groups, it'll probably need to be all the groups are going to want equal representation, so you would need to invite each one of them.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking.
Yep.
One or 2 people.
You can't handpick. There's only 2. What do you mean?
Well, I don't think we need all the
There's
EI
only-
people, all the EI people there, all the EBA people there. Somebody to represent each of those groups, 1 or 2 people
Right.
at the stakeholders meeting,
I
and
think one.
right.
So what I'm thinking out loud. What I'm leery about is that they don't really know the process. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if they come in and they're vocalizing what they want, but it's not what can be done. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That I don't know, it doesn't make it valid. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just makes it confusing or
It
a
just
mess.
makes it confusing. It's just more people going, we want this, we want that. It's like, okay, well, none of that can actually happen right now.
And maybe,
You know what I mean? I
maybe
wonder if it's just going to get us into the weeds is what I'm thinking.
I feel like we're definitely in the weeds right now. Maybe that'll get us further in, what you're saying. Right now we're not, regional's just not budging at all, and they can't get past, they can't even get in the start box. But I know the DRB would like to hear this, and you know they're
right. It's just
interested in it.
Or maybe John can be the spoken speak, saying this is what I'm hearing as far as support or something like that. I don't know. It makes me nervous. I don't know.
Who did you
I was
say?
thinking like if Sean.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know Catherine very well, but if I went to a meeting like that and somebody was trying to sway me and I was overwhelmed with that many people, I think I might get more mad instead. I'm thinking we should just have municipal officers approach with her and the group that you're trying to talk to.
And I do attend all of the EBA, EI, EFEDC. I attend every single one of those meetings.
Yeah, then maybe that's enough.
Where he says, basically, I'm the representative that I've heard from these groups and they're all in support of this kind of development kind of thing.
No, I feel, I agree with you all that fewer people, the better. And Tractor Supply is saying just one representative from all these groups is all. We don't want the whole kit and caboodle there yet. No, we know we'll probably have that on a DRB level.
Yeah.
Pitchforks and the whole nine.
Yeah,
But
it's easier for them to be focused. You know, if you have a lot of people, like, you know, when I went into the armory, met with, there was 20 different people. I didn't know who was, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't remember what this guy said, but if you only have 4 or 5, 6,
Yeah.
you can keep that name on that person. Oh yeah, he was, you know, the chair or vice chair, or he was on select board or trustee.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe it's Sean, somebody from the village, somebody from your group, me, Catherine.
I don't, my feeling, I
That's
think
it.
Polly or Dean might be pretty good on for the select board, but I know Polly's always, you know, I mean, it's right. We've all been.
Yeah, no, I would do that for sure. I would do that.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm wondering. So, and again, as I said, they don't really want to meet electronically, they want to meet in person.
That's fine.
Not looking to do it.
Everybody's more charming in person.
Or your
They
mask.
definitely- and on another note, as far as our hearing processes go right now, you know, between Catherine Dimitrick and the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, they're kind of saying, don't hold a hearing process of that magnitude by Zoom. You're going to have a bunch of people that feel, not everybody will have access, and somebody's going to be angry that they didn't get in on the process.
Right.
And then I told the applicants that, and they said, we don't want that either. Okay.
Mhm.
Because they don't, you know, when you are sitting in front of a computer, you're more apt to say things than you say more, shooting from the hip than you might in person. So they're a little fearful about that, I guess. So that's how I'll leave it. I will go back to them tomorrow and chat with them about that, and
Sounds good.
see if Catherine will be a part of it. That's it. I just wanted you guys to know where things are at. Any questions about other stuff?
We might have some, actually, you talked to me about that property down there by the bridge.
Yeah.
And then I saw in the paper a comment about something needs to be
condition?
done about that.
Yeah.
So
two of the three of them have cleaned up, which is interesting. And she's just never gonna do the right thing.
right.
Like the one on the corner has cleaned up, as you might have noticed, because that guy moved back in, and then the people up the street have kind of picked their stuff up. But the mobile home gal, I don't know. She just both doesn't respond. And
So this question that I have is another location on Davis Road. Is it a health or a zoning with garbage scattered all over outside? We got more teeth in it if we do it as a zoning.
well, it can fall under the, I feel some of that is out of your, the minute you, first of all, you needs to be able to say, yep, this place, you're treating it as though it's a junkyard. Junkyards are prohibited. So because this is prohibited, you're looking at up to a daily fine if you don't clean it up, and you got to give people at least a week to respond and then some time to clean it up. But we gotta get tough on some of these people and just start filing liens probably.
Well, see, I had kind of like a unofficial visit to this property today because there's some other stuff happened that they're mud bogging up and down the snowmobile trail. So I made my presence felt to that. I'm like, okay, I should be doing this legally. So and then I was wondering afterwards, I said, well, because our previous health officer had been to this area and got them to clean it up, but nothing, right back to where we are again. So same thing's going to happen again, unless you can put some and the people who live there are not the owners. So it kind of needs to go to the owner.
It's the people that live there that are doing it?
Yeah, well, it's his mother that owns the property, but she doesn't live there. So if it goes to the proper people that own the site, there'd probably be more implications about trying to keep it clean.
It must always go to the owner of the property in order for it to be a legitimate lien.
Right.
Or a legitimate complaint followed by a lien in that process, because if notification must be the property owner.
So BJ, Henry's probably got some folders on all the,
I'm sure they're probably,
I don't want to say names here.
yeah, they're there somewhere, right, BJ?
I did have them, but I just handed them off to the newest health officer, awaiting her signing her paperwork.
We have a new health officer?
Andy Murphy.
What?
We're talking on that agenda tonight.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you can, the biggest fear comes from filing a lien against property and then bringing it to a point where you have perfected a lien and it becomes a judgment on property, and then it sticks for 8 years, and then it must be perfected every 8 years. That's the story on the mobile home down there. I did some research on that mobile home down near the water that we're talking about, and down there by the bridge.
Yeah.
And there's about $55,000 worth of valid liens on that property before anything we file. So there's essentially I believe she has probably no equity in that land. Not a great position to be in. And she doesn't know it. I've not spoken to her. I don't know that she would understand it either. It's also out of my reach to be discussing that with her. It would be inappropriate. I already half helped her through a divorce. I'd rather not do that part again. Keep laughing, BJ. Keep laughing. Yeah, I'm done with her. I've tried. This would be the 4th, maybe 5th attempt where I've listened to the tears and all that. So,
yeah.
But that one, have you guys had any luck anymore with? I mean, nobody's spoken to me about buying that. There at one point we were talking about.
Oh yeah, I don't know where that went. Yeah, they were talking about it, but I don't know where that went.
I feel like I'm lurking into muddy waters with duress with her. I've like, hey, if you sold that, and we went there, and it's just not a great idea. Somebody needs to help her understand what kind of mess she's really in down there. I'm sure she doesn't understand it. So there's that. Right. But on that, Larry, we would impose something on the landowner only.
Yeah. So if Sandy becomes a new town health officer there, she may be getting with you on this particular property, because it is like Henry had it cleaned up pretty good there, I don't know, a year and a half ago or whatever, and it's like every bag of garbage is just piling outside there. And
yeah,
enough is enough.
So I would be interested in knowing what you've made for an attempt, other than, or have you done anything with them as a health officer with that particular property? Okay.
No. I was planning. I wanted to approach him, but I wanted to see what Henry had in his file, if he had something on that.
It was more of a, okay, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving.
Because now the snow's melted, and now you can see the
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like, this is not good.
I'm surprised with all the spare time you have, something hasn't come of it.
I think all the farmers will be on unemployment now too with this giving
Sitting
our
around.
last 15% of our milk away.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you all for listening.
Yeah.
I will keep you
Thanks,
posted
Angie.
with that meeting, and you guys can decide who from your board will go. I'll let you know when it's happening. All right?
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Angie.
Bye.
Maybe we could jump right on other stuff before we go on executive. That way we'll make the executive last thing.
Yeah.
So we were on a town, I talked most of the stuff about town health situation there, and if we have Sandy waiting in the arms, wants to be the town health officer, all we need to do is make a nomination and approve it, right?
Right.
I move.
I second it.
So Polly Rico made a motion and Terry Wright seconded the motion to accept Sandy Murphy as the new town health officer. Any more discussion? If having none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Pierre said aye.
Bye.
All those opposed say nay. All right.
Just please remember that it doesn't take effect till the first of the following month, so it won't take effect till the 1st of May.
So, yeah, so that's probably, I told the occupant today that I was
can't do
both
it
a selectman and a health officer, and the next time I was coming, I was gonna be with the sheriff. So I may want to stop in to put in a little official thing in the health officer handbook there.
Okay.
You probably want to stop in and get a badge from the town office.
I have one.
Some.
Oh, okay.
I have
I
a
have some
badge.
badges. I'll have to
Or
call you
carrying it
constable.
with me at that time because at first I thought somebody was picking up the snowmobile stakes, because they see them up above the farm, and then when he came flying out on the road in front of me, it's like I'm not ignoring this. Anyways, so the other two things we have with Joey, we have the two papers that we all need to sign. So, because he gave this to me just a few minutes before this meeting was ready to happen, and I told him that I think maybe if we make motions on these two things, and then we go in and sign them, or he maybe comes to us to get our signatures, so we get this paperwork through. The first one is the annual financial plan, and basically it's usually 30 days after town meeting we do this. And what it is, he breaks out the winter and summer expenses. So when there is a hazard, it's usually in the summer months, they usually take that percentage from the work that's done in the summer months for any matching and things like that. So that's the annual financial plan is. And the other one is road bridge standard compliance form, which we do every year. And basically he's just looking for our signatures on both of those. So I guess I'm looking for motions on both of those for us to be able to go sign them as they're not in front of us right now. Or I don't know how you're supposed to do that, BJ.
Pierre made the motion.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay, so Pierre Letourneau made the motion and Polly Rico seconded the motion to accept both the annual financial plan and the road bridge standards. Any more discussion? Having none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Okay, I'll let Joey know on that, and he'll probably he'll probably can see me or maybe Dean and Terry or something, and let know, maybe drop the rest BJ for somebody to sign the rest. But we should try to get them done sooner than later.
So would he have
the-
them down, would he have them down to the town barn, Larry, and then would you stop in and sign them down there?
Yeah, he'll have them with him. I'm not sure if he'll have them in the pickup, but they're probably in his office right now.
Okay.
I can
Well-
talk to him and then send you guys a message out, or maybe he could just seek you guys out.
Or I'll just call him at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, catch him there, and I'll find
Yeah.
out where they are. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing Joey wanted to talk about, and I said we should try to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, was the raises, because we were doing a significant raise amount, and I guess there was question at how are we compared to the other towns. I think BJ's been working with them or trying to collect some of that stuff, but we really, we're late now because this, usually we do this right after town meeting, and because of this COVID-19 there, we kind of behind the 8 ball on it, and so should try to get it together for our next meeting and address
A
it.
spreadsheet I can send you guys.
Okay.
Seems like there was something else he wanted to talk about too, but I think if we get with him there, we can, I don't know if we're gonna do it. What's that?
You want anything new on the bridge? Was that what it was about?
Yeah, the bridge inspection, was that it?
No, he did not mention that, but I did talk to him about that beforehand. We were talking about the work crew and what they were supposed to be doing, and that's right now the state just putting that on hold and told them just keep it closed for now. Is that the bridge you're talking about up by Dean's?
Yeah.
They did come inspect it last week, must have been Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, they did?
They did come inspect it. Yeah. They send their info on to the reports back to somebody else, and then they go from there. So.
Okay.
But they did inspect it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure we should have Joey. We should have him at our next meeting, whether it's through Zoom or I don't know where if we're gonna have outside down our tailgate meeting under the tent, but I don't know how our next meeting or where it's gonna be at because of the standards that they're loosely starting to let us back out of. But definitely Joey should be at our next chat or physical meeting. I don't know. And he did say that Cecil came back to work today
Okay.
and strictly told him that you drive your pickup to your truck and get right in your truck. And then go to this job that they're doing. So keeping them as close quarters as you can. I don't know if any of you heard when I walked in tonight, I guess Brad Parody passed away.
Yeah, I heard that
Yeah.
just soon.
Yeah.
And that's how serious this thing can be. I mean, we can't see it. We don't know anything about it. But as long as we keep protecting our areas as best we can and our people that work around us, that's all we can do.
Todd had it.
So I think that's it for Joey on what he had for me to talk about. And then Polly had update on the armory.
Yeah, so I had a video chat with Felicia and Greta because Greta Regional has to do the phase 1 assessment, which basically they go in and find out if there's any asbestos or lead or anything like that.
Okay.
And so I filled out it's called a site nomination form, and it's basically a form that applies for any money if they find out that there is some asbestos or lead. It's the brownfields, which are contaminated areas. So basically what it does is they have to go in and do an assessment But if they find something, it kind of puts us in this program where we could maybe recoup some of that money. So I ended up filling out the paperwork and just kind of nominating the site for a potential asbestos contamination. She said the flip side of this, though, is when they go in to do the assessment, that it can be kind of a can of worms, because they don't just look for asbestos and they just don't look for lead. They look for everything.
Oh,
So the plus is that they don't have any fuel tanks or anything there. So that's good news. But they did used to repair equipment. So if they find, oil in the soil or anything like that, then it could be kind of a can of worms. But she said, we're going to be hopeful and just go with it.
Now, the thing is,
Oh, what?
Holly, question.
Yeah.
Now you're saying that they don't have a fuel tank. The thing is that, isn't there one buried in the ground?
Felicia said no. She said all fuel was off-site.
Really?
That's what she said. I don't know. I know nothing.
Because the other thing is that the, where they worked on the equipment and everything, then that could be in the, where it was gated area also.
Yeah, it could be. So they're going to basically, she said the good news is that most of it is paved. So as far as soil samples, there's not much soil that's
Right.
actually exposed. So she said, I'm going to be hopeful that there isn't much to find. But so I filled out that paperwork. Felicia said that this will all be by December 31st. That's when we will be changing over ownership. One thing that Greta did say that we should do is we enter what's called, I think, umbrella program. It's a $500 application fee, but basically what it does is it's basically like a liability limitation plan, which means if they find anything that's a contaminant after we get in, we're not liable. So let's say we move in and 5 years later they find that there's some weird contaminant. If we have this program, we cannot be held liable for any damages. If we don't have the plan and somebody finds some contaminant and somebody gets sick from it, we could be liable. So she says it's kind of a good thing to do. It's only $500. She's like, I would do it. And we should do that before the purchase is complete. And I have that application that I can bring to a board meeting between now and December. What is it? What?
Pierre's.
Oh, Pierre's in favor. Okay, of doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? I mean, we can make a motion later when we actually have the form, but are your thoughts that we should probably do that?
cheap insurance.
That's what I was thinking.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's that. So Greta is moving on the phase 1 assessments.
So that,
yeah.
Sorry, Polly.
No,
So the way it looks then is we will not have any ownership this year at all.
No, it sounds like with everything.
So we won't be able to do any improvements or anything until 2021.
Correct.
Okay.
So which is another reason why when the school came forward and said, does the community center want a 6-month lease? It kind of makes sense because it brings them till December and we would know more in December about when we actually get in that building.
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's just see what time it is. Wow, 9:11. Wow.
I know. Come on, people.
Okay.
Not even
so-
budgeting season.
So we're on the ambulance billing, tire and employee question, executive session, and Comstar update. Not all of that, I don't believe needs to be an executive session, so I don't know if we want to hammer out like the ambulance billing. Let's do that.
Well, the ambulance billing is going very well with the new people. They've found a few little things that will help us capture more money, which is always good. We may have to enter into some contracts with Amcare and Missisquoi in order to get the highest amount if we want to get reimbursed for our paramedic call outs. So if we ask them to have a paramedic on board, they always bill us. But for us to get reimbursed from insurance companies, they said they typically get more money if we have an actual contract in place besides a verbal one.
So that, like mutual aid contract we were talking about.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I would like to have permission to talk to Vaughn about that.
Yes.
Sounds all right to me.
Yeah.
Yes,
Would
go.
would we still be able to use Kelly or our own employees if they're on staff?
Yes.
Okay.
And then Terry has an update on the tires.
Yeah, I was, like the other night, I told you, I was up there the other day and I measured, there's one new tire and there's 5 tires that actually 4 of them measured 4/32 and one of them measured closer to 3/32. And in order to, if you put them on there, 4/32 that's the least amount of tread you can have on a front tire to pass inspection. So I feel there's no need of putting a tire on that's just barely passing inspection now because it won't at the end of the year. So I say that we need to buy 5 new tires, and they got this other one that we can run, you know, one of them in the back and make sure we got 2 that match up in the front.
So he was saying we needed tires for both ambulances though.
No.
That's not what you believe.
No, the 13 is we're going to run those winter tires out.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood because that's what I thought you had said, but I just want to make sure I'm hearing
No,
everything.
that's what Mark and I talked about last fall. Tell you the truth, I have not looked at the 13 tires, but you know, they're studded tires. And Mark told me the other day, he says, if they don't want to hear the studs this summer, we can actually pull them out.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if they're not bothering anybody now, I don't see any sense of, you know, spending the money and taking them out, and, you know, and all that stuff.
No,
And,
I just want to double check.
So what I'll do is I will check the 13, but for now I would just buy them 5 tires, you know, for the new ambulance. And I guess Eric Fabro has got the best price of $143 through a state price, and he'll met them for what, $20 a tire, I think it is, or something like that. So.
Do you need a motion for that, Terry, or we're just?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We buy those
Okay,
5.
I'll second.
Okay.
So Terry Wright made a motion and Polly Rico seconded the motion to approve buying 5 new tires through Eric Favreau for the ambulance. Any more discussion? Having none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay.
Aye.
I never get to do that.
Okay. So that's the ambulance billing, tire. Then there's employee question, executive session, and Comstar update. The Comstar is not an executive, is it?
No, Comstar was what I already told you. I just put it in a bad place. That's all.
Say that again.
We already discussed the Comstar, so it's just the employee issue.
So we need to make everything else, I think, on the agenda is done. So let's.
I'll move to go into executive.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made, seconded to go into executive session. Any more discussion? If having none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. So we're in a